O, jest!
Pierodzis?
QT. Widzowie, Polska górą, szybko spamujcie. Ja szybko piszę, Polska górą.
Ale potężny Polak.
Polska górą. Polska przyjmuje ten kanał.
Już jakimś potężnym Polakiem. Jest wielki.
Ej kurwa, ale widzę jaki to poziom reprezentuje w stosunku do Diablo 4, ja pierdolę. To wygląda jak porządny event, nie?
Czaisz, że streamerów wzięli, znaczy popularnych oprócz może z Liga, ale wzięli streamerów, co są lubiani i fajnie mówią. A Matil jest taki malutki, a ten chłop się wspina na takie skały, jest pojebane.
So I'm looking forward to getting into that. But for the moment, folks, how are you feeling? Excited, Mathil?
Dobra, ja proponuję się spotkać, idę oglądać to. Miłego oglądania. Tak się robi, kurwa, eventy o grach, tylko tyle powiem. Hello.
Lot of excitement and energy out here, and everyone's just keen to get going.
Nie mam pojęcia, wydaje mi się, że są automatyczne. Mam kategorię PoE? Jak mam kategorię PoE, to są chyba automatyczne widzowie.
Get into the whole reveal, but I feel like it's a bit more excitement. It's still very much nerves because I'm not used to doing
something like this. Jak ten, też nie wygląda, ale tak na dobrze zbudowanego wygląda.
It's crazy stuff.
Everyone loves you, mate. How about you, Rise?
I felt a lot better before you called my speculation useless.
And rampant, don't forget.
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, they're going to be 100% accurate.
Ale on wysoki jest chyba, on z 2 metry ma, mi się wydaje.
I kind of threw you on the bus today a little bit. He had some stuff.
Ale on ma włosy chyba normalnie, coś się zgolił na Chrisa Wilsona?
He's had to rethink his speculations his
Nie,
entire life,
on
really.
ma zbyt 95, kurwa, mi się wydaje, jest wysoki. Nawet położenie nóg widać.
I think I'm good. I've got some good ones.
Excellent, excellent. What about you, Nugi?
Na pewno ma ponadprzeciętny. Widzicie, jak ma nogi zgięte, jak siedzi?
I would say, but we're joined with
Zaznacza dobrze, no, dominacji rozkrokiem, to prawda.
Traveling all the way to New Zealand and
Dobra, jego niku nie czytam nigdy, bo się pomylę.
Situation is just having a shared common interest, which is Path of Exile.
Right, so many beautiful nerds here
in
New Zealand coming together more than ever before as well. We've got like, I think it was 1,800 people, I think, a few hundred people more than last ExileCon, which I did not predict. So that's they're strapping people to the rafters, they're opening up the balcony seats, people are getting suspended and hanging above the crowds. It's going to be quite the spectacle. And I'm already people started coming in and taking their seats and feel we've got a little bit of a crowd here. Guys. So pretty exciting stuff. And
ale ten host, jaki ma australijski akcent. Ja strasznie lubię australijskie akcenty, nie? Moim zdaniem najładniejszy akcent angielski.
Pumped for it because you just know there's been so much like working on, and they're just ready to reveal. There's no way the silence has been for nothing.
It's the secrets. Well, I mean, we just had like 2 little tiny teaser trailers recently, but I was surprised by how much I could get excited by just those little 2. I had to spend an hour analyzing them just because it was like 40 seconds of content, but it was like there was so much in that we've already seen. Like we started seeing things like new class models, at least possibly new classes. I don't know. What do you guys have any predictions about that side of things?
Yeah, it looked amazing. I really liked how a lot of the times whenever you used an ability, it moved around your character. I think a lot of people want those characters to move forward in the trailers that we've seen. A lot of them jumped back and all that, but I think it's going to be pretty good, and it looked very different, Because 4 years is a long time. That's like the life cycle of a lot of games. So
No, I mean all the trailers and the 2 that we saw.
To jakieś nawiązania powoli chyba.
If you just think back a little bit about all the things we were shown last time with all the new gems and the skill systems, I feel like you can finally start seeing what it is they wanted to do with the game just through those trailers at least.
Ja wiem, no, to jest Polak.
Yeah, we saw like so much big systems changes and things like that announced last time, but it's been so long. And I expect that something of that at least has changed a lot.
Oh, yeah. I mean, through any creative process, right? You figure out what works, what doesn't. So it'll be.
Yeah, who's to say like the skill system hasn't changed dramatically, or they're like doing something else end game, or who knows? There's very little we do know at this point.
Hopefully they figured out what doesn't work. Come on.
Yeah, absolutely.
We need that bombshell.
Time.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, but at the same time, a lot of people who played the demo previously, really enjoyed it. Only myself only got to play a little bit, but I was super impressed with what I played. And do you guys play the demo last time?
A little bit, yeah. At least some on live stream. But let me just remind everyone that PoE 2 is going to fix everything, right? Like, it is saving marriages. It is going to.
So good, yes.
Yeah, don't worry, Ziggy. It's going to do all the heavy lifting for you in that regard. But
PoE 2 is so good, it's going to save Diablo 4. That's how good it is.
Yeah, we did. Someone went there.
Someone broke the cover.
Mamy to!
That one, right? But I was just going to point out for the teasers, like a lot of it was big because for me personally, a lot of it is about the character models and the skills. And all of the skills look like they'd pretty much been reworked graphical-wise. Like I was looking at the teasers and the trailers and thinking, is that the skill that I think it is? And it looks so different and so much better.
Siedzi teraz i myśli, że 6
I'm
minut,
really into MTX and the changing of the skills and all that, and just by default making
Diablo
way
4
clearer
reference
and way more
jokes.
fluid.
Speedrun every
Bring the
percent.
game into current of ARPG gaming.
I think that's what really grabbed me from those teasers as well was the diversity in skill use and having a lot more like situational skills like that, especially the monk kind of looking gameplay.
Right.
That looked super interesting with like the unarmed slash.
Potężny
using
Polak na
weapons combat,
ExileConie,
kind of weaving
ostro
together and
Diablo
movement, like
4.
you mentioned. That's the biggest thing I've wanted for PoE for a long time is more skills that involve like a step forwards, a step to the right, because melee combat is fluid, it's dynamic. Like footwork is a huge part of any sort of melee combat situation. So seeing that represented in game a lot more is very exciting and kind of
Z nich Polakiem
points
po
towards some of the
środku
stuff I'm really
rejski.
hoping to see out of PoE 2. But we'll come back to that in a second. Firstly, I want to hear
Piżam tam nie siedzi.
what do you
Kurwa,
guys
nie
really
wiem,
hope
no.
to see today or predict that you'll be seeing today. Matha, what are you predicting?
Well, as far as
Mieli tam
predictions
wyboru
go, the
pewnie
one
Rescue
I've learned
Team,
over the years
Piżama.
with Path of
Piżam
Exile
powiedział,
is
że
that
chce
I've
za to
learned
stikała
nothing
Rescue
about
Team
predictions.
powiedział.
X1.
People
A to
always
jest
come
za
into the channel and they ask,
99,
what do you
to
think's
wzięli
gonna happen
Rescue
with this?
Team.
What's going to happen with that? And I engaged with that for a while in past times, but I could just
Dzięki
never get anything right
Cornflakes.
because you don't know.
Zasubika,
Like they always throw
wyzywaczka.
curveballs. They're always giving you unexpected things. I thought they're going to buff this. They nerfed this. Whatever. Like it's always it's this huge up and down balance, and I could never really get any predictions right. But that said, I think I'm just going to be blown away. Like it's going. Like I've been looking
Ten
forward to
mały z
what
dłuższymi
they're going to
włosami ma
announce,
pewnie
and I
więcej godzin niż
yeah,
tych
have
D2
sensed
po
some,
Speedjump w PoE i
discontent
pewnie
in
dużą ilość
communities,
godzin Piotrkowi
throughout
pasowałoby
all of
wziąć,
this,
żeby go
just
przegonić.
as they're
Ile ma
waiting for
godzin w PoE?
Path of Exile 2
Chyba
and
najbardziej
big
kreatywnym
new leagues
twórcą,
and
jeśli
all
chodzi o
that. And
buildy.
there might
Ten,
still be some doubt
blondyn.
here or there, and I think there's no doubt. Like it's
Mówicie,
just
że to
going
jest
to
jakiś
be
gigakod,
a huge
kurwa,
renewed
buildmaker.
burst of faith in this is the game I chose and for very good reason, and it's going to be just unreal.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you on that as well. Like people always ask me, what would be your designed league that you would make? And I'm like, I have no idea. I'm glad I'm not in charge of that because GGG always come up with way better
Ma
stuff.
10
than what I
godzin
could
na
come up with for that.
Cold-Docie.
What about yourself,
Dajesz mi
Raz?
powiedzieć, że on stworzył
I think I'm
Cold-Dotę.
going off the deep end. No PoE 2, PoE 3. Okay.
On only mobile, only PoE mobile.
Oh, no, wait a minute. No, I don't want to go there.
So they combine them, right? 2, 1, PoE 3.
There you go.
They're
Makes
powered
That's
sense.
the,
Yeah.
that's the way to do it.
At Path of X.
There you
It's
go.
all one platform.
Wait, so
Everything
Elon
together.
Musk bought it out?
It'll do your
Oh,
banking
yeah.
for you.
Yeah, okay.
Someone's getting sued. I think lore-wise, it would be really great if they just close the story off before PoE 2. So our characters always kind of like
Kurwa, Rescue to
messed
jest
with the
nieźle
world,
wyszczekany,
not always in
kurwa, nie?
positive ways.
Dobry
Just
humorek
want them all
ma.
gone, you know? Blow it up, I don't know, new planet, different world. That would be really
To
nice.
jest
and
taki
also
chyba
I'd love to
bezpieczny
see, you know,
streamer do
PoE has
wzięcia
done
na
really
kanapę na
well with,
open.
cooldown abilities
Chris
and all
Wilson
sorts
tam
of
się wisi, ja
just kinda
pierdolę, kurwa,
timings in
pozyw
it.
od
I'd
Blizzarda
love
i...
to see maybe some ultimate abilities, something that is a little bit more
Po chuj
tied down
wybraliśmy tego
to
Whistle'a z
particular
Polski.
ascendancies or particular classes, maybe some new classes, you
On
know.
streamuje całe
Because
ligi
last time they
praktycznie
were talking
codziennie od
about
ich
how
z
there's
lat. W
so many
sensie
more
nie z
new
jakimś kotem na
ascendancies,
zasadzie no gramy itd. Ale to mieć dziwne połączenie gemów, itemów i graty.
Yeah, adding a little bit more distinction there, like you know, very physical sense in the
2701
gameplay.
Siema,
X16.
Nox!
Witaj piękny
What about
Kiszaczku,
you,
przy
Nick?
kolejnym
Well,
Witaj
miesiącu
piękny
w
Noxie.
pojebanym
Answer of
stronie
no
chyba nie mam
predictions.
nic najlepszego w życiu do roboty niż oglądanie klasycznego Stormera z podpowiedzianym głosem. Pozdrawiam serdecznie i co
Wąsaty manipulant, jak to mi ktoś napisał na Twitchu. Wielkie dzięki, no, kurwa, twoje zdrowie. 16 miesiąc, chyba na poziomie
So it's really hard to predict what it is, like in which direction they
on
are
bierze
going.
build
So
i
I'm really
robi
excited
tym
to
buildem
see
całą grę, okej.
what is it they want us to see. Like I want to see them
A
in
który
the
z nich
game
Ruthlessa
again.
gra?
Like
Jest to jakiś
really
kurwa
all
Ruthless
out.
świr?
So that's something I'm
Czemu
excited
ludzie
about.
Ruthlessa nie grają?
And we
Ruthless
have all
kurwa
this
najlepszy
beautiful
tryb gry
art
w PoE.
behind us and statues and like maybe
Bo
we
Rescue
will
Team
have
mówiliście,
some kind of
że
a
gra Haseka
narrator
solo
leading us
self-founda,
through the
nie?
story. I would really love that within the PoE 2 story and just seeing what just so because there's such a big office now. Like what can that many people bring within the title?
Yeah, that's actually kind of one of my predictions, actually. I expect
Creep
a
growth,
bit of an
huh?
uptick in the storytelling side of things.
Yeah.
And this was just barely hinted in one of the teasers that I saw, where the character really felt like they were interacting a little bit more with what was actually happening around them. Like in current PoE 1, you get your character kind of tossing out a cute throwaway line every so often. But the character in one of those teasers was actually kind of like addressing one of the other NPCs there, having like a little bit more interaction with the environment. I'm excited for a potential, improvement in the storytelling
Oni
side of
wszystko
things
tak
there,
zaokrąglają ich.
with the,
Tak jakby ich wszystkie
flavor
głoski
oozing
są
that
takie
we saw in
okrągłe, jak takie
previous,
wow, oni cały czas
iterations
mówią.
of the PoE 2 stuff that we've seen.
You
And yeah,
thought
this
guys
stuff behind
something
us, I don't
about
know
it?
if you guys can't see the top of this, but there's like a giant blood creature and there's a creepy head up there and a spine.
Oj, mate! No, a mi się bardzo podoba, jak oni
They're
tak
blown away
gadają.
with the decorations this year. A little smoky in here too. I don't know if you can see that.
That did actually make me think one of the things I would love to see and always hope to see is cutscenes.
Jaki wy czat lubicie najbardziej
it
akcent
helps build you
angielskiego?
into the world, into the story, and immerse yourself in that, and really like get invested and care about the story. And I think,
Anglik
this
najlepiej
is
gada, you
possibly, if
fucking
ever, the time
cunt!
for them to have big
Ja nie lubię
cutscenes,
brytyjskiego
and,
akcentu.
that would
Indyjski,
be
o indyjski
amazing.
też dobry, no.
Yeah, that would be cool. Even if you don't
cutscenes.
do cutscenes, the one.
It's amazing though.
It's cool.
A wiecie, że bardzo często się myli angielski, w sensie angielski, rosyjski, angielski, polski, on jest całkowicie kurwa
kind of
inny.
like, dipping their toes in the water with that one, I think. But even if you don't do cutscenes,
Polacy rozbijają
kind of
angielskie
big
słowa
dynamic
na,
moments in the actual
na
engine
sylaby,
gameplay
tak
as
jak w
well.
języku
And we
polskim
saw
się
a bit of
robi,
that in one of those teaser
a
trailers too,
Rosjanie
where
mówią
like
o
the boss
wiele
comes
twardziej,
smashing
nie?
through the wall and there's debris and stuff flying everywhere. That's a lot more than what we've seen previously. And they started doing that in PoE 1 a little bit with like they reworked to Brutus and him kind of smashing through the walls. That was an exciting moment, right? It was terrifying.
Oh yeah.
Brutus coming just smashing through the prison and chasing you through doorways and stuff like that. So more spectacular moments like that. Something I definitely think we're going to see a lot of for sure. So definitely looking forward to that. I'm also interested in your thoughts on so what we've seen in the past about the skill system. Again, things could be changing a lot, but that's something I've been particularly interested in is this change to being able to have access to more well-linked skills and then maybe a gameplay style that supports using those a little bit more. A bit more opportunity for situational combat. Not everything has to be like a super hard fight, but the occasional moments where you're like, you have a little bit of back and forth with the monsters, and that gives you the opportunity to use that second or third or fourth extra well-linked skill that you've got access to right now under this new system, if that's the way they're going.
Z tych jebanych Fireside Gatheringów, kurwa. Robię tyle kontentu. Z jednego Fireside'a, kurwa, z 7 filmów wychodzi, i kurwa zawsze tak nie. Raz ja obejrzę, raz Maciejczak obejrzy, raz ktoś powie, że jest zajebiste. Ktoś zrobi śmieszną przeróbkę, potem dopiszą coś na Twitterze i na sam koniec jeszcze jakiś dziennikarz napisze artykuł.
They're doing the skill linking system and
Ile
there's
osób
more
to
at your
kurwa, 100
disposal,
osób ogląda
it's gonna be
ExileCon.
just interesting to see
Więcej
how
niż
you
dzisiaj
can
Fireside
incorporate
Gathering.
the different combos, because you have to make a lot of choices. You can't just have
Bez
everything.
kitu.
Right? So all of a
Już
sudden
ma
you have
większy
to
coverage.
build into a few things and choose between the right things at the right times. And I think that makes for a much more dynamic gameplay. Yeah.
That's a tricky balance to find for sure, because PoE has grown increasingly difficult when it comes to sockets. I feel like back in the day it was like, oh, if you're playing a summoner, you're going to be lacking a lot of sockets. But now it feels like that's the case on everything,
literally every
100% of the time. So the previously teased system of having to be it be
Cały
tied
kontent
down
było
to
przepraszanie
gems.
w kółko. Dzisiaj nie przepraszali
Be
Nox.
a pretty
Dzisiaj
good
nie
solution, but
przeprosili.
who knows? It's been a long
Dzisiaj się
time.
tłumaczyli,
And
dlaczego
in
nie
GG
mogą
fashion,
robić
they
niektórych
probably
rzeczy.
might have come up with something better. Even better.
And a big problem that they identified before was like
Ale
early game,
opowiadali, że mają w
especially
planach,
gear
żeby
lock-in,
gra
where
była
it feels
fun
like
to
you can't
play.
change your
Tak
gear very much
mówili.
in Path of Exile, and that's kind of always been a thing. And it would be nice to be able to freely take advantage of like different items that you find and things like that as you're going. Have a little bit more freedom, a little bit more kind of breathing room than what we feel like we have with the skills right now.
Zajf?
What about you,
Co to
Nick?
ten Zajf?
No, I think the game being dynamic
Siema, Wilku.
would probably be the main thing that I think they're gonna go
Przed, jak wam,
with the whole
jak wam
re-rigging
się
of all the
obecnie
characters, them
konsumuje
flowing through
content u mnie na
combat,
streamach?
and
Bo
then you
mocno
find an
się
item
zmienił,
on the
naprawdę, od
ground,
tej
and you
premiery
can just
Diablo
immediately
4.
swap it out
On
because
się
you think it's
mocno
better.
zmienił.
There's no
Jakieś
taking
siadałem,
out the gems
odpalałem gierkę,
anymore, and all
grałem,
that, so everything
włączałem
will
streama
just
w pizzu.
there won't be
A teraz
as
jest
many
dużo jakieś
moments
takiego
where you're kinda
oglądania,
tinkering while
odnoszenia się do
mid-combat.
jakichś
Maybe you find
trailerów,
something that's really good,
przeglądania.
but while you're fighting
Podoba wam
a big
się
boss
to?
and you just
Jest o
boom,
wiele
I
więcej gier
suck it in
testowanych
immediately.
naraz.
I don't even really
Na
need to
jednym
do all the
streamie masz
re-rigging.
stary Dark
I
Souls,
think
kurwa,
I feel like
oglądanie
that's
tego
GG's like worst
Heroesy.
nightmare. We've had so many situations where like swapping out things make
Oh,
pretty
you're already
Masz,
metagaming
ale
it.
Norix już są włączone. Norix, masz u mnie włączone?
Just have an
Jak to
inventory
można
full of
sprawdzić?
different items for different combat. You're like, oh, I'm putting this on now, and
Yeah, we're going back to the
Wstaje
snapshotting.
codziennie,
Yeah,
coraz
yeah.
większą chęć.
I'm sure that's gonna. The thing is, when with a
Nice.
clean slate and everything changing, you never know how players are going to take that.
Ale Satren
and,
właśnie
you know, be
wlatują na
creative
YouTube,
with it.
wariacie.
Well,
To za czym
Absolutely.
tęsknisz wróciło.
Yeah, I think shortening that moment from finding something to
Są
using
dropy.
it is like a really good thing
Yeah.
to do. It's good for the endorphins, right? Like, yeah.
Wiecie, co mi się wpłaja
Some of the
najbardziej
like
podoba,
I
tak
think more
serio?
successful leagues are those ones that
Pełna
have the
kreatywność.
shorter gap between like
Stary,
the content
wpłaja
you're doing
sobie
and then the reward you're
pomyślisz,
getting for it.
kurwa.
Whereas the reward that comes, you know, a long time down the line
Nie
after
chce
a
mi
lot of
się
stuff is
rzucać
realized,
tych
that's a
klątw.
lot harder for a lot of people to
Kurwa, za dużo klikam i
engage
chuj,
with
co
quite
może
as much, I
zmienić.
think. So that kind of brings me, we're not just getting Path of Exile 2 stuff today. Towards the end of the keynote, there'll also be the reveal of the next Path of Exile 1 League, and it might be the last ever Path of Exile 1 League. Like, I don't know if they're going to do more after this, because there'll be the beta for PoE 2. All focus will be on that. Like, after the beta's out, are we really going to be like, yeah, let's go play the PoE 1 League again?
Going to be a beta.
well, that's.
Whoa.
What do you know, Seek?
I mean, I don't know anything.
Spoilers.
I really don't this time. Everybody always says to me, "Oh, you know everything, Ziggy."
You're the inside man. They bounce ideas off of you. They, you know.
I really wanted to know nothing for this, and I was super glad that they did not spoil like almost anything for me, so that I could go into this completely blind, because I want to be here with all you guys.
Yeah, we were in the back room, and they were doing stage checks, and we were just like, la, 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 we can't see anything.
Yeah, there was something on the TV there. We're like, no, I don't want to see it. Yeah, we all saw one word, and we're like, no, erasing it from our mind. Yeah, no, it's erased from my mind as best I can.
What I can say is that I did not predict that.
That word.
Yeah,
no, that one caught me off
I did not
guard.
predict that.
Oh,
Yeah, that was one. Yeah. Let's move away from that. What would you guys like to see out of it if it was a final Path of Exile League? It might not be. They might be doing more, but...
Yeah. I mean, I still think it's going to be a big one. I've had lots of people say, oh, you know, they're probably just waiting for PoE 2 and not necessarily going to do anything still big in PoE 1 or leagues and stuff. I think it's going to be a big one. And as always, they're trying to reinvent the ARPG genre to some extent, bring in aspects from other games. And what games I've been playing that are, I think, pretty popular at the moment are these sorts of...
I know what you're going to say. Survivors.
Exactly. I call them like reverse bullet hell, right?
Yeah, the bullet heavens.
Yeah, something like that. So like a vampire survivor thing. And I think they at some point, like very early into the game, touched on something like this, which is the Coward's Trial map. So that's a unique map, and it's basically just slaying waves of monsters, right? But it's very old, very dated.
Stary,
and I could see
chyba najbardziej randomowe pytanie, jakie mogłeś zadać w PoE2.
Sort of,
I could see that, man.
An entire league where you just...
If they reveal that now, everyone's going to be very...
Oh, I hope I didn't... Yeah. I'll take credit for, you know, predictive, by all means, but I think that could be a really fun league mechanic for... just satisfaction in
that whole genre is like a distillation of action RPGs in general. It's like just take a lot of action RPG, kind of strip them down to like the very base of kill monster, get upgrade. Yeah. And it would blend well, I think. And we've seen a little bit of like sampling from other genres. We got some roguelike action recently.
Exactly. And yeah, it just seems like they see what's hot out there right now. How can we bring it to this game? And a lot of the time, it's feels like it comes out of nowhere for this game, and it works. Sometimes I feel like it doesn't always work, but it's worth a try, and it's an experiment. But this one, I think that type of mechanic and system would be great. And, innovation is their strong suit.
I'm definitely here for that one, but that's the one route they could go. Do you guys have any other thoughts of a different route they could go, maybe?
Sure.
Yeah.
Fixed trading, bring back Harvest, auction house.
Path of Exile Copium.
GGG's been stalling harder in PoE 1 than we have on this keynote. So, yeah, no, I'm just hoping for big bosses and a big wrap up to the story. Again, the thing we're seeing behind us, you know, there's a little bit of a possibly an ascended Xana-like creature. I don't quite know how that works out lore-wise. Maps are timeless, all this sort of stuff.
Że RMT, okej. Nie, no bo Auction House powiedział inaczej,
I remember
nie?
last time it was Metamorph, and was met with Conquerors of the Atlas as well. So that was a pretty good combo.
Yeah.
Definitely a very enjoyable league.
Conqueror's sick.
Hopefully no picking up of organs this time.
Ja wam powiem, że mi tak jak Norixowi też się
call him out right now. Oh yeah, we're getting, because we're reacting later on.
Taką interakcję
What we're going to be seeing.
Yeah.
To forsuje.
We can call him out.
O kurwa.
What about you, Nugi?
Oh, it's a
O
tough one.
kurwa, miałem
I mean,
ostrą paprykę, dziś jadłem ostrego kebaba rękami. Miałem ostrą
really
paprykę na ręce.
PoE 1 League.
O kurwa,
So,
se oko tym zatarłem.
like Rai said earlier, blow it all up.
Blow it up.
Just blow it all up. It always works because what's left in the,
Kurwa, 3 razy
the
myłem
ashes.
ręce.
We'll see about that. Or a boat league.
O kurwa.
I mean, that's always the other option, right?
Yep. There's always a boat
and/or
league.
fishing league.
Yeah.
I mean, we've had gardening. Surely we can have fishing actually at some point. And as the like final, just like a meme send off for PoE 1.
Yeah.
I think Chris still curses the gardening league. Quite a bit of...
Well, yes, we know they do.
Kurwa.
Certainly.
I don't think they like that one.
I think, yeah, it's kind of the ending of an era. We're moving from PoE 1 to PoE 2, and we're jumping forwards in time significantly. We're not getting a whole new world, but we are getting propelled
Nie
forwards
mogę
into
sobie
the future
przejść,
and
bo nie
maybe
wiem, na którym
exploring new
palcu mam
lands.
tą
So
paprykę i
it
to
basically
zatrę
is a
jeszcze
whole new world
bardziej.
in one sense. So
Blinda
some sort of
rzuciłem,
send-off.
kurwa.
I would love even if it's just a little thing, just some little send-off incorporated into the league or into the game, or maybe if they're doing some sort of like update to the end game, something like that. You can couple that with like something, a little bit of a teaser of what's happening in the end game.
Darksig, dzięki
When
za
PoE 2 comes out as well, because we've had some invasions from otherworldly entities recently, and that's certainly been hinting and leaning towards an extension of that. So there's going to be two kind of new storylines getting explored here, both Path of Exile 2 and its campaign storyline, but also what's happening with the end game. What is the Maven heralding forwards for us? You guys have any thoughts on that?
Ale co, masz problem z tym jakiś, że to
I
oglądam
mean,
przez
not really. Like, how much bigger can you go? It's
I know,
already,
right?
Like, we're already cosmic. Like, you start out on the beach and you got a driftwood club, right? And then you're slaying the cosmic entities from...
Well, that's what I think is rather interesting, is that we have Path of Exile 1 got really big, maybe too big, killing all the gods.
Yeah.
That's like the storytelling thing is like, you get to that point and it's like, okay, you got to kind of pull it back a little bit. And it looks like we might be going a little bit more humble, a little bit more grounded for the start for PoE 2, and I think that's really cool. Yeah, I think so.
Oh,
so, and PoE 2, like being able to pull down to something more of a grounded story, something a little grittier maybe, a little bit less crazy over the top. And then contrasting that maybe with the end game being a different thing. Because they've always been a little bit separate, right? Like you have the story of the campaign and then you get into end game, and then it's its own separate story that's evolved separately and along a different timeline with some weird wacky stuff when you start to think about which exiles were where and which exiles we're playing now and which exiles we're playing before and how they incorporated the story. It's kind of like a wild system that
Ja ci nie zabraniam oglądać, ale twój content na YouTube ostatni z reakcją na reakcję, no offense. W jakim procencie, stary, mój content z reakcją na reakcję po odpowiedzi? Nie, możemy to sprawdzić, stary, jak chcesz, dawaj, odpowiedz.
And then we keep going further and further. I'm kind of hoping for that, because we were speaking very confidently about the beta and maybe no new world. Maybe we're gonna do an invasion on the world of wherever Maven's from.
Dawaj, sprawdzimy, stary,
I would love
kurwa.
to see that
Let's go.
big, mighty boss battles. I think PoE has been doing really well with that, and they're ramping it up every time. So the more of that, the better. Because it used to be a little bit disjointed too, you know. Back in the day, it was like
Oglądanie
you could
typa
do
z
this boss or you
zagranicy,
could not. But now
oglądanie traileru,
they're tied into the main gameplay, and I
oglądanie
really love
Smongolda,
that. I think it's really great.
Heroesy,
Yeah, I think bossing has been
materiał
getting better and better,
Terrarii,
and those like
materiał
spectacular moments of
Armorkorze,
those big boss fights have
oglądanie
become
Maciaszka,
both the thing that
materiał o
propels you
karnecie
forwards
bojowym,
in chunks through the game and through the
materiał
end
z
game,
Heroesów,
and then also the big goals too, like to take on these
materiał
various bosses and uber bosses
oglądanie
behind them. We have
Nexusa,
so much there in Path of
materiał
Exile, and that's been
stosowanie
getting better and
Diablo,
better. And from what we've seen in
materiał
the
z
past,
Heroesów,
the bosses in Path of Exile 2 campaign
oglądanie
look
co Nadix
awesome. Like the
powiedział,
previous demo, like the Devourer and those
materiał
very
o
boss
Battle
fights that
Passie,
look like more interesting
materiał
arenas,
w
more interesting
Heroesach,
fights, and that's something I hope
oglądanie
to see a
Macieczaka,
lot of today. Hopefully, is like some cool boss fights. I know we've got
materiał o
like
Battle Passie,
30 minutes or something of gameplay
oglądanie
time live
Blizzarda,
on stage. So.
materiał w pierwszym sezonie,
spoiler.
materiał o Baldur's Gate, materiał jak odpowiadam
also
w czacie,
Difficult gameplay, right?
materiał
Yes.
o orzełach,
You were mentioning Rise. You'd heard something about that.
Yeah, the
oglądanie
difficulty is
Macieczaka,
supposed to be
materiał
through
z
the roof. So if you're a
Darkendarkę,
player
materiał z
that's a little
Baldur's
bit concerned
Gate'a,
about what
materiał
you're going to be
Baldur's
seeing here,
Gate'a,
if you're a father
oglądanie
of 17
Kiszaka,
children and you've got the
update
dishes to do and you can only play 20
oglądanie
minutes a month,
Epikusa, materiał o
I
Baldur's
think
Gate'cie,
don't worry about it too much. I think
materiał
there's
o
going to be plenty of
Microsoftie,
gameplay for everybody.
Yeah, you won't run out anytime soon in that
Yeah.
situation.
materiał o,
I think so.
o wypowiedzi dewelopera Diablo
We're
4,
almost to wrap up
oglądanie
time and moving
czegoś o
over to the main
muzyce,
stage, but any
materiał,
final
oglądanie
thoughts
materiału
that
Diablo
you guys want
1,
to throw in? Anything you hope to
moja
see or anything
opinia na
like that?
temat
We have 2
trailera,
minutes. Noogie.
omówienie patcha przez
Turn
Nexusa,
to me.
sorry, sytuacja z
Final
Enkerem,
thoughts.
o Laderze w Diablo
I
4,
just want to see passion.
o Dark Soulsach,
I just want to see
forum
passion and just
starego
people just
Diablo, Median XL.
giving us everything they've
Nie
been
wiem, stary,
building.
gdzie jest problem, stary?
Predictions.
Nie
I
wiem,
really.
boli
at
się
this
to,
point,
że
I just don't
oglądam
know.
czyjś
Yeah.
materiał,
Maybe
czy
an
o co
MTX.
chodzi?
I would like to see a toucan.
Huh?
No.
Toucan?
Yeah, that would be nice.
Niestety komisja musi odebrać licencję na prowadzenie kontentu na
I will
YouTube.
just
Jutro
love to
rano
see a nervous
przyjdzie
Chris Wilson
policja
up
z
on stage.
formalnościami do
For as much
popełnienia.
nerves as I'm having right now, like doing this sort of thing and waiting for the reveal, it pales in comparison to getting
Zobacz
on
ostatni
stage and
materiał
revealing
Cezaksa.
everything for the
Teraz się z
past
graczem
few
w
years.
PoE w
And
komentarzach
just
i
seeing
mówi,
someone
że
so
PoE jest
excited about their
niszowe,
game.
ilość graczy jest
Yeah, I know
niszowa.
they're all like super excited, but also super nervous. I saw
Nie
a
wiem,
lot of them
120 000
before,
osób
and
tylko ogląda.
yeah, you can feel that
niszowe chyba, nie?
excitement. Rise, any closing thoughts, mate? Before we
Max
sprint
2 filmy.
over so we get our seats.
Yeah,
No
absolutely.
nie wiem,
Dad.
stary,
I
no
mean,
kwestia jest taka, no jak
everybody
chcesz coś
from
konkretnie
the
powiedzieć, jak
GG
ci coś
side has
przeszkadza,
felt really,
to powiedz
really
to, a nie próbuj
excited.
się
We were
kurwa
trying to
jakoś
get them
siłować,
drunk
nie wiem,
at some of
brakuje
the
ci kurwa
parties.
jaj,
They weren't having it. They're well trained.
No spoilers.
Yeah, really, they weren't giving us anything.
That's good. They were more so than last time, even. Also, I've got to remind you folks, if
Uwaga,
you're watching live on
jeśli
Twitch, don't
Geek
forget
się
to
ogląda
connect
na
your
YouTube,
Twitch
ja
and
cię
Path
nie
of Exile account so
atakuję, nie
you can
wiem,
get
czy on to
drops access
przeżywa, nie
to.
przeżywam, ja ci
Was
stary
there like a cool
odpowiadam na
hideout or something
wiadomość.
like that, or do we only
Jeżeli
get that? I don't know if I'm teasing.
Mówisz coś do
Really
kogoś,
nice
ktoś ci
wings
odpowiada i ty nagle zaczynasz
Yeah,
reagować
great.
emocjonalnie,
really
tak
good,
jak ty
those
teraz i mi mówisz, że ja to
so make sure you
przeżywam,
hit
to ty
that
chyba
up.
jesteś osobą
Just about to
przeżywającą
go
to,
over
nie?
to the live stage, and I can't wait to see what we're going to see from Path of Exile 2
To ty
and
chyba
Path of Exile
zaczynasz
1.
widzieć
Been
tutaj
very exciting.
emocje,
Thanks for
które
hanging
nie
out with
mają
us for the
miejsca.
Stall cast. I'm Ziggy D with Mathel, Rise, and Noogie. We'll sprint back over here just after the keynote is finished. There is not much time left, so I'll see you fine folks over there in just a
Widzowie,
moment.
2
Thank you very
minuty.
much.
Będzie trailerek.
D4 bad.
Essa. Rejski Tigi to powiedział i sobie pomyślał tak, jebać blizę, kurwę psa, nie? Prawidłowo. Ech. Jezu, ale to cieszy widzowie, że... Ciekawe, czy MKRL nagra materiał na ten temat, że Polak właśnie obraził Blizzarda na oficjalnej transmisji. Dla mnie materiały, które mieszczysz na YouTube są bardzo dobre i cieszę się, że trafiłem, bo takich materiałów mi brakowało. Co powiedział? D4 bad. Jak ktoś nie zna angielskiego, to powiedział Diablo 4 złe. No i co, synek nie potrafi kurwa już nic odpisać dalej. To co, wypierdalamy go widzowie? Jedynka na czacie czy dwójka na czacie? Słaby pokaz widzowy chyba dał. Ty chciał zażartować? Nie jesteśmy kumplami, że sobie będzie ze mną kurwa żartował. Kurwa, nowy rok, odliczanie. Ej, ale wiecie co? Nawet widownie, która tu zasiada, w ogóle porządnie wyglądają ci gracze PoE, nie? Ludzko, tak jak normalnie ludzie, których mijasz na ulicy. Nie macie wrażenia? Zaangażowano, no.
Hey guys, how's it going? Farian here. And welcome to ExileCon!
Możemy dać trochę większą koszulkę.
Thank you all so much for joining us here in New Zealand. It's quite a journey. Thank you guys for joining us online. It's going to be a fantastic show. So you guys want to learn about what's coming up in Path of Exile? Oh, you do? Yeah, me too. Yeah. Well, before we get to the people that are best to deliver that information, before we get into Path of Exile's wonderful future, let's take a moment to go over all the wonderful things we have already experienced in Path of Exile. Let's take a moment to check out Path of Exile from the past.
2010. Beta pierwsza. Byłem tam, grałem. Ale wolne to było. 11.
Bow to your queen, mortal! You there. Let me bend your ear for a moment. Why are you so in love with death?
Miłsista walka, nie? O 16 tu chyba następne akty weszły, nie? Jeszcze będzie więcej przeciwników.
Let's make history.
Afraid of the dark, Exile? You should be.
My cause fuels me.
Do you remember dying here? You will.
Widzowie, jak w skali od 1 do 10 cieszy was, że na oficjalnej transmisji Path of Exile ExileConu, którą ogląda 150 000 osób, Polak napluł na Blizzarda i Diablo 4 2 razy w pół godziny.
This one should be rather legitimate. Does the toy wish to play with me?
Your path to greatness has taken a hard turn.
Jego prezydent powinien zaprosić i mu order wręczyć. Jak kto jest prezydentem w Polsce teraz? Nieironicznie pytam, nie? Duda? Dalej jest? Małyś. W sercach to Pudzianowski. Mięsista walka, nietuzinkowi oponenci. Czuć uderzenie graficzka. No. Ten opening trailer PoE 2 jest chyba świetny. Giga dobrze to wygląda. W ogóle gra światłem, jaka to jest niesamowita. Zobaczcie, jak tu idealnie kontrastują kolory w tych trailerach. One są genialnie zrobione. Głębie kolorów jest idealna. Paleta barw. To wygląda fenomenalnie. Aler, dzięki za suba.
Alt 3 RT. X1.
Oj, swoje.
Hi, I'm Chris Wilson from Grinding Gear Games.
Co tak dziwnie stoi, kurwa? Krzywiony. Za dużo gra chyba na PC-cie. Ja też siedzę na jednym boku.
It feels like just yesterday that I was here on stage at ExileCon 2019 announcing Path of Exile 2.
To jest ten typ, co gra w tych filmach, tam raz strażaka, raz lekarza, tak?
To everyone here in person, thank you so much for coming out to join
Aktora,
us.
dostawcy
It
pizzy,
honestly
to jest
feels
ten?
so good to know that people love Path of
Kurwa,
Exile so
kojarzę
much
w kilku
that they
filmach,
fly
nie?
across the world
Normalnie
to
go
come
z
and
serii
celebrate with
kojarzę.
us in person here. I really hope you have a great trip and make the most of your time in New Zealand. Our last ExileCon was a magical experience, and we've tried to go above and beyond in every way this time. If you're tuning in online to watch the live stream, thanks for joining us also. I wish you could all be with us here, but to ensure you have the full ExileCon experience, we have made sure to include every talk and session as part of the 2-day live stream this weekend. Twitch drops are enabled for the live stream, but if you're here in the audience, you'll automatically get them when you redeem the microtransaction code in your swag bag, so no need to stream it from your phones while you're watching. You'll also receive the attendee-only ExileCon 2023 hideout. We have so much to share with you this weekend, and let's just get right into Path of Exile 2. I'd like to introduce Jonathan Rogers and Mark Roberts, game directors of Path of Exile 2.
Hey guys. Well, Chris has been running Path of Exile 1. Mark and I and over 100 other developers.
Właśnie wyglądają jak gracze typowi. Kurwa, net ubrani są tak w jeansy. Chłopie, jak grasz w WoWa z kimś w gildii, to mam wrażenie, że z takimi typami gram, nie? Nie macie wrażenia? Że ten typ mógłby ci Molten Core'a kurwa tankować?
Okay. Sorry, I forgot. Okay. When we announced Path of Exile 2 at ExileCon 2019, we told you guys that we were releasing it as an
nawet to
expansion to
społeczny jest. Typ mu dał opener, żeby wszedł, a typ nic nie powiedział, nie? Bo zagubiony jest trochę w relacjach społecznych.
And it's far more than just an expansion with a new campaign. It has entirely new monsters, skills, mechanics, classes, everything you'd expect from the next generation of action RPGs. Not to mention revamps of most of the PoE 1 League content. This thing is just freaking huge. There was a point when we realized that our plan to replace PoE 1 with PoE 2 would essentially be getting rid of a game that people love for no real reason.
Nie wiem, czy taki muzakum, przecież to z promptera, kurwa, czyta 1 do 1.
With their own mechanics, balance, endgames, and leagues. But it's still a shared platform. Your microtransactions are available across both games. Everything you have ever purchased or will ever purchase in the future will be usable in both games unless it's hyper-specific to the content of one of them. You can't transform into a bear in PoE 1, so a reskin of your bear form isn't going to work. But you absolutely can put the awesome arm set you got and use all your stash tabs. So with that in mind, we'd love to show you a live demo of some of the stuff we've been working on. PoE 2 has come a long way. Mark here is going to man the PC. Hopefully it doesn't die. It is a live gameplay demo after all.
D for bad, D for bad. Dodo Mister, dzięki stary za... Ty, pokażą prawdziwy, realny gameplay bez fejkowania tego. Niesamowite. Niesamowite, że są firmy, które tak jeszcze robią. Widzicie, ty bez gracz, nawet się nie zezwał. Tam pierdoli jakieś gadanie, nie, kopie. O, fabułka. Nie, te kolory są ładne.
Everywhere I went, the same divine devastation.
Giga dobrze to wygląda.
It must end. I will end it. And no exile will stop me.
Łyżka Sammony. Trochę jak oglądam ten gameplay, no nie? Spore. Mam takie wrażenie, że tutaj... Mam nadzieję, że to jest tylko na potrzeby traileru, że efektowność wzięła górę nad efektywnością. I te skille wyglądają giga dobrze, ale mogą być tak jakby zbyt przeciągnięte animacyjnie, nie? O kurwa. Nie, boss. Fajnie, że pasek życia jest cały czas widoczny. Bug Witch. Takie słowiańskie trochę klimaty. Kurtok. A jaki duży boss w ogóle jak na PoE, nie? Bo jest mało takich dużych bossów. Fajna gwiazda.
Ten 0,00025 złotych. Dawać te PoE 2 już kurwa, bo żygam już z tym D4 bliskie z forever.
Dzięki temu, no kurwa, też nie mogę doczekać. Horyzontalnie fajnie wygląda to PoE, serio, jest dużo głębi, nie? 100 bossów, 1500 pasywek, 36 ascendancy, 240 aktywnych skilli, 700 typów equipmentu, 6-osobowy koop. Błagam, zrób też kompilację. Filip, oglądasz to? Zrób kompilację porównania PoE do Diablo 4, błagam. 240 skilli, 20 skilli, 700 przedmiotów, 40 przedmiotów. 600 mobów, 10 mobów. Z jedynki przenoszą. Diablo 4 też z Diablo 3 poprzynosiło skille i nie pomogło.
Welcome to Path of Exile 2.
Jest więcej bossów niż mobów w Diablo, no.
One of the 6 acts in PoE 2's campaign. We're starting here in the jungle depths.
Niż w ogóle
Act 3 is set in the ruins of the Vaal civilization, which fell thousands of years ago. Jungle has taken over their former once great cities, and we'll be exploring it using one of the 6 new character classes called the Monk. In PoE 1,
one of 6 new character classes?
Strength, dexterity, and intelligence.
Będzie 6 nowych klas postaci?
We realized that many of the new skills that we were trying to design just didn't really fit thematically with the existing classes that we have. Being a spellcaster with a bear form makes sense for strength int, but it just doesn't really sound like something that Templar would do.
6
We
character
realized that since we
classes.
had new mechanics for every attribute combination, it actually made sense to design a new character class to explore the new themes. In PoE 2, every attribute combination has 2 classes associated with it. Strength int has the Templar or the Druid. On dexterity, you have the Ranger or the more spear-focused Huntress. And on dex int, you have the Shadow and the Monk, which Mark is playing here. Each class has its own 3 ascendancies that let you further specialize the class in a way that only that class has access to. But they both start at the same location on the passive tree. The quest rewards you are offered on the 2 variants are tailored to the class. But of course, this is PoE. You can still mix and match anything to your heart's content. Looks like we've come across the boss for this area. In PoE 2, every area of the campaign contains a boss of at least this difficulty. That's over 100 bosses to fight as you make your way through the campaign, and they all have unique mechanics.
Każdy poziom będzie miał bossa? Właśnie niech coś powiedzą o Battle Passie.
As you've been watching from Mark fighting here, you've probably noticed that melee combat in PoE 2 is a very different feel than before. We've done a lot of things to add mobility to combat. Practically every melee skill in PoE 2 has some kind of movement built into it. But the monk in particular is a melee fighter who specializes in mobility over brute strength.
Każdy melee skill ma wbudowany movement w siebie. To brzmi jak coś, co by zbalansowało melasów pod względem szybkości czyszczenia kontentu nimi.
So, as Mark has been playing, you might have noticed these blue markers over enemies. Mark is a skill equipped called Killing Palm. Whenever an enemy has a blue indicator over it, it means that the monster has low enough life to cull with Killing Palm. Successfully executing the cull will give you a power charge. This is an important skill for the monk, since many of his skills interact with power charges. One of the great things about this skill is that it has a built-in dash forward, which makes it much easier to target the skill right at the point where you need it. We've done a huge amount of work in PoE 2 to make using skills like this feel satisfying. If you're accidentally targeting slightly off the monster, the skill will automatically lock on to the cullable target, and it will even do a small amount of pathfinding around obstacles. We really want to make sure that when you've got an opportunity to use the skill, nothing is going to get in your way.
Pathfinding w skillach to jakby
Once you have some power charges, you're going to need some skills to power up. A great follow-up is Falling Thunder. Falling Thunder without a power charge just creates a relatively small lightning AoE in front of you. But if you do it with power charges, it turns into a pack clearer with a large number of extra projectiles. One thing to notice here is that, like almost every melee skill in PoE 2, Falling Thunder has a little bit of extra movement built in just in case you need it. Use the skill within range and you just do the flip in place. But use it at a larger range and your character will move forward while executing it, getting you into position without any time penalty.
Fajne też
In
jest,
PoE 2 you also get a short period to redirect your target.
że melee skille mają delikatny movement w sobie.
Whip the mouse sideways to land the skill in a different direction.
To daje w ogóle poczucie takiego feelingu walki konkretniejsze. No i też pomaga melee klasom być też szybszym, bardziej mobilnym. Sam w ogóle fakt, że możesz walczyć z bossem i zdodżować coś stary atakiem, no to bardzo dużo dynamiki nadaje.
Generally speaking, you never lose control of your character in PoE 2. If you make a turn at the right time, you can get a couple of extra hits on the monsters, getting them in range of your cull.
Bez kitu, no to prawda, skille mało wyraźnie wyglądają. Ty gold leci, faktycznie! Faktycznie leci gold, którego nie ma w PoE normalnym.
We've now entered the Val Mechanarium. This is the place where the Val built the various constructs that they relied on to
Ta
power
są
their
role, na bossie
civilization.
też robią role.
Now this is a find. A Val ruin that hasn't been looted?
Ale fajne azteckie ruiny takie, nie?
One useful feature we've added is the ability to call in NPCs to where you are to give you more information or help you with quest objectives, rather than always having to go back to town. In this case, we've called in Alva to find out what to do.
This mechanism. If powered with a small soul core, it could open that door. There should definitely be soul cores somewhere around here. They had to
A
power
przynajmniej nie masz
these
tych
constructs
NPS-ów łażących za tobą i ich nie musisz eskortować, tylko sobie przywołujesz
Let's explore. If you want to shave off some life without getting too close to some of the more dangerous monsters, a great option is Wind Blast. Wind Blast also doesn't do too much damage, but it keeps enemies back. The closer they are, the farther they're pushed back, so it's a great option for keeping smaller but higher damage enemies at bay. Note that the bigger the enemy is, the less they'll be pushed back, so trying to push back some giants isn't going to be as effective. And there's the soul core. Let's get back to the door.
Dobra, jedna rzecz. Błagam, powiedzcie mi, że to jest jednorazowa mechanika, a nie kurwa każdy dungeon jak z Diablo 4, że musisz znaleźć jakieś gówno i przyprowadzić, nie? Może to jest setup do dobrego joke'u, nie? Że nie będzie tego w każdym dungeonie jak w Diablo 4.
Now, if you need to defeat tougher enemies, it might be time to break out some of the ice skills in the monk's arsenal. Glacial Cascade creates a wave of ice that moves slowly in front of the player. It's pretty ineffective against fast-moving monsters because most of the damage occurs right at the end of the wave, and so a lot of monsters will just walk right by it. But if you can find a way to make a monster stop at just the right place, it can be very effective. In order to do that, you're probably going to want to freeze some monsters. The monk has a few different tools to do this. A fairly simple option is to get right in the monster's face with Ice Strike. Ice Strike doesn't do too much damage at the first 2 hits, but attack 3 times in sequence and you can get off a combo that has a much higher chance to freeze. Get in there with the freeze, then roll back and finish the job with Glacial Cascade. Now, remember how Glacial Cascade is that extra damaging spike at the end? If you hit a frozen enemy with that spike, it shatters the ice on the enemy and does a devastating amount of damage. This is a really great combo against bosses, as you'll see later. Oh yeah,
tak, to było na pierwszym bossie widoczne, że on strasznie wybuchał giga duży damage.
We added a dodge roll to every character. Just press spacebar at any time to roll.
Movement wbudowany, zajebiście.
There's no cooldown and no limitations.
No cooldown, no limitations, oho.
And it even has pathfinding in it, so you don't get stuck on anything. When you...
O, i akurat pokazuje się zbagowało.
When you dodge roll, you're not invulnerable. If something hits you, you're going to feel it, but most things aren't going to hit you. And that's because while you're rolling, projectiles and melee strikes will always miss. You'll have to roll out of the way of a slam that has
iframesy masz kurwa w PoE 2 na projectile.
Another important function of dodge roll is it lets you cancel out of any skill at any time. This makes it so you don't feel like you're getting stuck during a long animation when something's about to hit you.
O kurwa.
It really changes how skills with longer attack and cast times play, and makes dodge roll a very reliable feeling way to avoid attacks.
O kurwa. Dareczek dzięki za 4. miesiąc. Ja pierdolę i framesy zdali do PoE, chuj.
Wave of Frost is one of our new attacks with a retreat built right in. You move backwards and throw out a cold attack with a significant freeze. A great thing about this is that it puts you at a good distance to follow up with a Glacial Cascade and do a whole pile of damage.
O, supporcik. To automatycznie musi zbierać cały loot, zauważcie. Ty, może jest takie ustawienie, że jak masz coś loot filtr, żeby ci pokazyło, to ci to po prostu kurwa zbiera. Jest auto loot, nie? Bez kitu. Battle Pass, o. O, co tam on da? O, dzięki. Wyłącz.
Another skill you can use to get some extra freeze is Shattering Palm. Shattering Palm is a palm strike that puts a small ice bomb on the target. Kill or deal enough damage to the target and the bomb will explode, doing some damage and a significant freeze. It's a great option against bosses where the wave of ice might not be enough to get that freeze off. But you still really want to use Glacial Cascade to get the damage bonus.
Kurwa, błagam, weź tak ktoś wyślij Blizzardowi.
The final skill we're going to show you today is Flicker Strike. It's a monk skill and another skill that consumes power charges. If you've played PoE 1 before, you know what to expect.
Ah! O kurwa.
It's a great finisher for tough boss fights, if you were able to get some power charges beforehand.
Jest jakiś low-levelowy dungeon, stary, kurwa. Coś dobrego. Mozzarella, majonez, szynka, pomidora.
Here we have Blackjaw, former overseer of the Mechanarium. When the Val fell, he was turned to stone and now guards the area. In order to take down this boss, we're going to need all the tools in the monk's arsenal, especially the combo of Freeze and Glacial Cascade. Now, if you're a PoE 1 player, you might think you can't rely on Freeze because there's so many bosses that are immune to it. But in PoE 2, that's changing significantly. In PoE 1, Freeze is a binary mechanic. An attack freezes the target, or it doesn't. What this basically means is that in PoE 1, we're forced to add freeze immunity to many bosses because Freeze just trivialized them. Because of that, freezing was something you could only really rely on while pack clearing, and not something you could use as a core part of your build for boss fighting. In PoE 2, though, all crowd control mechanics now have internal meters that allow you to build up to a freeze or stun, or whatever other CC mechanic that you're using. It's a little bit like poise from games like Elden Ring, though the meters tend to be a lot smaller than those games. When you freeze an enemy, it increases the amount of freeze you need to do to get another freeze, but the increased difficulty bleeds away slowly. More freeze will always let you freeze the boss more often, but this system means that you will not get out of control in party play or interact badly with other CC mechanics, allowing us to let these kinds of mechanics actually work against all bosses.
Na pewnym etapie chill ci się stakuje i frizuje. Ej, zrobić guys reskę Diablo 4, tak niby na jaja, że recenzujesz Diablo 4 i pokazujesz ten gameplay i poczytać komentarze na YouTubie, kurwa. Ty robimy coś takiego? Zrobię recenzję Diablo 4 i powiem, że wyciekły nagrania nowego patcha z Diablo 4 drugiego sezonu. Powiem, że jak stracę za to kanał na YouTubie, to chuj to. A że to jest recka nowego sezonu w Diablo 4. Kurwa, ale na chipę dostał. Ale taki zwykły boss, widzicie? Jest kurwa wymagający trochę. Skill issue.
Let's take two. Alright, so this might be a good time to mention that in PoE 2, if you die to the boss, you have to start again from the start. There's no boss cheesing. So hang on, oh, there might be a...
Nawiązanie do Diablo 4.
One second, one technical issue. It's just typing some cheats to... Alright, we good? Back to the
jakiegoś bossa z fabułki z PoE przy 160 tysięcy widzów. Wypierdolić. Kurwa. Da, to jest boss fabularny, bez kitu, nie? Ale patrzcie, on jest w miarę wymagający. Ale wiecie co? On ma mega fajne tempo ataków, to się strasznie przyjemnie kurwa dodżuje, nie macie wrażenia? To bez kitu wygląda jak walka z bossami w Soulsach. Giga dobrze to wygląda. Po jakie dali zbliżenie na jego twarz, wy nie widzicie? Ty, usunę wam kamerę na chwilę, patrzcie jaki chłop skupiony. Ja pierdolę, ty jak 2 razy się wyjebie, ten ci taki przypał. Pewnie myślisz, że go wypierdolą z Grinding Gear Gamesa, nie? Ty pewnie jest od balansu, a nie może bossa jakiegoś zrobić. Myślisz sobie, kurwa, już będą memy ze mną, nie? Że jestem testerem w PoE, nie potrafię bossa zabić, że dlatego bossy będą źle, kurwa, zbalansowane, nie? Kurwa, od deadgamerów nie będą wyzywać w firmie, nie? Lepiej stary chyba szefową na meetingu wyruchać niż się wypierdolić na pokazie, nie? Pa, fajne kombosy ma. Zajebiste ma to ataki. Świetnie, to wygląda jak serio, jak z Soulsów. Ten bossing wygląda kurwa genialnie. Patrzcie na te kombosy i on ciągnie to w ogóle jak w Soulsach i ty dodżujesz, nie? Opie, no i weźcie mi powiedzcie, że bossing w Diablo jest dobry, że tam są fajni bossowie. Zajebiste są te ataki, naprawdę. Tą walkę można przejść do 3D, wypierdolić do Soulsów i będzie super. Zgliszował się, nie? No i czuć wagę tego wszystkiego, to prawda, to prawda. Są czyste ciosy. O kurwa, ty. Ej, bez kitu, ten boss to w standardzie Diablo mógłby być kurwa jakimś Uberem chyba, nie? Jak wam się to podoba? Zajebiście to wygląda, nie? Wyobraźcie sobie, jak tu będą prawdziwi bossowie wyglądać. Jak to jest jakiś kurwa z fabułki pet, nie? No nie, animacje są świetne. Jako ludolog, kurwa, usatysfakcjonowany ludolog, oceniam to wysoko. Chuj ma ataków. Ale widzicie, ile trwa ta walka?
Ten 0,00010 zł. Tu się dzieje więcej niż w całym Diablo 4.
No. Bez kitu no bez kitu. Tak, najlepsze jest to, że tu nie ma jakichś pierdolonych plam na pół ekranu. Tylko masz fajną, satysfakcjonującą walkę z bossem, gdzie stoisz i się z nim napierdalasz po prostu, nie?
Come on, come on. No. Get it. It's so good. There you go, there you go. After this. No. Get him. Okay. All right. There we go. All right.
Pa jeszcze bijem na sam koniec, taniec zrobił.
All right. Second time's the charm. So, Blackjaw has dropped a consumable quest item here called the Flame Core. It's a permanent +10 to Spirit. In PoE 2, we really want to make sure that you feel rewarded for exploration. It wouldn't be much good if we made all these awesome optional bosses if we didn't have something great to find for killing them. One of the things you might find for killing a boss is permanent stat bonuses for your character.
Staty za bossing, nie za jakieś gówno side questa, za bossing, zajebiście. Normalnie bym skate'ował, serio. W większości sytuacji nie lubię, jak masz robić coś dodatkowego dla permastatów. Ale jeżeli miałbym do wyboru robić siedlisko z zła albo jakieś zjebane quest albo bossów, to zawsze wybieram bossów. Albo szukanie altarów, nie? No, ty, osada ocalona, słuchajcie, w GGG. To jest bez kitu. Giga dobry pomysł, nie? Zajebiemy do projektu Szakal. Side questy to jest po prostu zabicie bossu. Nie, ale te bossy są genialne, kurwa. Ten boss wygląda fenomenalnie. Kurwa. Gadam jak Baśka z tego. Jak się nazywa ta babcia, taka Baśka, co te vlogi nagrywała. Fajkę paliła, kawkę piła, mówię, kurwa. Baśka TV. O, Barbara Kwarc, no. Kurwa, stary. Nie, fenomenalnie, klasa, kurwa. O, kurwa, na nie? Czujesz to, kurwa? Czujesz to, kurwa, tych bossów? Kopie. Gdzieś w życiu takiego na oczy nie widział, kurwa. Kurwa, nie jakiś lelum po lelum, kurwa, w Diablo 4, tylko... To są nieposowy, nie? W PoE.
10 złotych. Warto też zauważyć, że tutaj te typy mają pompę i zajawkę na giereczkę, a nie kurwa jak w
Tak,
się siedzi
no,
4
bez
typów
kitu.
czyta z kartki
Bez kitu, to się
zero
przyjemnie
emocji.
ogląda. Bez żadnego cringe'u, kurwa. To prawda. Nie jakieś żarty na siłę, tylko se gadają o giereczce. Fajne, kurwa, szczury jakieś takie z widocznymi żebrami. Pa! O kurwa, zablokowały go, o chuj. Czujesz to, kurwa? Czujesz to, stary? Ty, ale patrz, kurwa, mobów jest tak dużo, że cię mogą otoczyć i doruchać w kącie. Nie, to... Ja pierdolę, to świetnie wygląda. Mi się strasznie, wiecie, światło podoba. W sensie... Ja bardzo lubię poczucie bycia w takim dungeonie, nie? Uwielbiam taką eksplorację. Właśnie jak Neverwinter, jak Daggerfall, jak Diablo 1. Takie uczucie bycia zamkniętym w lochu jest świetne, nie? Nie wiem, jak to brzmi. Ale tutaj ta gra tym światłem i cieniem jest świetna. Masz cały czas wrażenie, że coś eksplorujesz.
Alright. Let's go right through. Alright. Alright. In order to help with the next area, we're going to call in a sorceress. I'd like to welcome Octavian to the stage, who's going to join the party with Mark, so they can play through together. Alright, 1 second.
Słuchajcie, pasy ty wpisuję. Jebać blizę, kurwa psa, 2137.
Here we go. Alright. The sorceress is the new intelligence-focused character in PoE 2. While the witch focuses more on occult magic and summoning, the sorceress is themed around pure elemental destruction. Let's have a look at how she plays.
Ale to jest, oni już pokazują tak jakby Ascendancy, no nie? No bo mówi, że to jest sorceress. Już myślicie, że jest jako Ascendancy?
This is the largest soul core I've ever seen. With this, we could power the canal systems. But
nowa klasa. No ale myślicie, że to jest pusta klasa jeszcze bez Ascendancy jako sorceress? Bo oni wyjebali stare klasy, tak? Nie będzie już Witchki, Maraudera, Shadowa. Z rework klas, tak? Czy stare też... Aha, stare też będą. Będą i będzie 6 nowych? I stare Ascendancy zostają, będzie 36 nowych? Ej, kurwa. Ale to dobrze szli, że jak masz poprzedni produkt, który jest dobry, to nadal go używasz i dodajesz dodatkowy content do niego, bo ludzie lubią twój poprzedni content. Zamiast go kopiować i jeszcze w nowy sposób.
Dziękuję. Shirbon 10 zł. Słuchaj, kurwiu, jeszcze raz się wykurwisz na pokładzie, to możesz szukać innej roboty, a przez GG cię rozjebie, rozumiesz? Pozdrawiam, dyrektor dziura w dupie.
Ale patrzcie na to. Podstawowy skill, widzicie jaki to jest rozjeb na ekranie? Ci wydaje mi się, dzięki suba. Widzicie jaki to jest rozjeb przy jednym skillu na ekranie? Cały ekran się kurwa pali na niebiesko. Jest armor.
You have to be standing still for a little while to get the full effect, so trying to stutter step using it isn't the best strategy. Now, Arctic Armor is an ongoing buff, but did you notice it didn't reserve any mana? How does that work? Well, we were pretty sick of the fact that in PoE 1, basically every character was playing with no mana pool, so we decided to change the way that reservation works. In PoE 2, there's a new resource called Spirit. Spirit is a dedicated resource that you can use for ongoing effects like Arctic
Kurwa,
Armor,
ale
Heralds,
dobre,
Auras,
przemyślane.
and
Czyli masz many i spirit i tylko spiritem rezerwujesz i nie robisz nagle buildów na 20 many.
Everyone starts with 100 spirit, which is enough for most ongoing effects. But if you want more, you're going to need to get some more spirit, which is available on mods from items and on the passive tree. But if you're willing to give up your offhand slot, the easiest way to get it is by holding
I oni naprawiają wszystko, co jest jakkolwiek problematyczne w PoE, do czego się można przyjebać. Wszystko, do czego się można w PoE 1 przyjebać, oni kurwa reworkują totalnie.
It's a great opportunity to use some cold skills before it explodes. And speaking of cold skills, a great skill to use on monsters with lower cold resistance is Comet. This is a new skill in PoE 2 and it's pretty damn hard. Costs a lot of mana and has a really long cast time, but it's worth the wait. It does a devastating amount of
giga wolno schodzą, ale mi się wydaje, że to jest na pokaz tak zrobione, nie?
Back slightly as it casts. It's pretty hard to hit fast-moving opponents, but it's great on tougher enemies that stand still.
Mi się mega podoba ten movement przy skillach. To daje takiej dynamiki, że ja pierdolę. Chłopie, to daje taką dynamikę pojebaną.
So where did that come from, you ask? Well, this is a great opportunity to explain the way that we've changed caster weapons in PoE 2.
Ktoś powie, że walkę w Diablo 4 dobrze wygląda, to kurwa, niech to zobaczy.
And because they had that, they also had a bunch of attack mods that would spawn in them that were useless to a caster. In PoE 2, we wanted to clean that up. So each staff now comes with a built-in free-to-cast spell.
Oh.
Just
Normalnie masz skille wbudowane w itemy, żeby sobie je testować, ale zajebiście. Ej kurwa, ej ja nie chcę robić takiego streamu z obciąganiem publicznie, ale bez hitu, oni fajne pomysły mają.
Using it slams your staff on the ground and will allow you to triple cast whatever you cast with your next spell.
Co?
Now of course what you're probably going to want to use is very powerful. And Comet
te skille się łączą ze skill.
You'll notice that Unleash is one of the few skills in PoE 2 with a cooldown.
Tymczasem Blizzard daje bounce do Firebola i mu redukuje damage o 60%. A PoE tak. Potrzymaj mi kurwa piwo. Dostajesz skilla, który kasuje twojego skilla 3 razy instant naraz. Wyjebane.
Well, in the circle, your mana drains, but it powers up all your spells. Lightning projectiles will fork, beams will chain further, and you also do a lot more damage.
No, podwalam, jest koń podwalany pod stołem. Nie, to... A wiecie dlaczego to tak jest? Bo oni kurwa kmienią o co chodzi w hack and slashu. Nie wiedzą, że w hack and slashu masz stary tak autystycznie sobie napędzać wszystko wokół, nie? Nie no, to genialnie wygląda. Ale już jest w PoE1. No nie no, mega, ale wiesz, no to jest najlepsze, że to nie musisz mieć tego wbudowane w gemy, bo masz to nagle wbudowane w staffa. Co daje ci większą szansę. Daje ci większą szansę na to, że bazy przedmiotów będą ważne pod względem spela, jaki mają wbudowany. I pewnie będzie nowe currency. Co? Okay. Bane, ale jest nazwany Barrier of Evocation. Ja pierdolę, nie musisz levelować dżemów. O kurwa, tak.
Meta gems are skills that can have other skills socketed into them, changing how they work. In this case, we're going to select Cast on Shock. Now, let's equip this thing in the skill screen and choose which spell to trigger with it. I think Comet might be fun. Now, because Cast on Shock reserves Spirit, we'll need to first disable our Arctic Armor. We have to decide if we'd rather have the extra defense or the extra offense of the Cast on Shock using our Spark.
Snaki podkreślenie Snackers 1,6 zł i 66 groszy. PoE2 ma więcej możliwości w dwóch stafach niż D4 w całym drzewku XD.
You can see on the top left corner that there's a counter that shows you how long until the next trigger.
Ty, ale fajne no. Masz countery po lewej, dobre git. W bawku. Pokazara trigger. 90. Pa. Essa. I łączyć skille. Co 10 szok daje ci stary kometa i essa. Anti-aliasingu nie ma, o kurwa, ale mnie boli to. Widzicie to? Strasznie mi to wkurwia.
As power is restored to the Mechanarium, all the constructs are coming back to life. We'll need to fight them on the way back to the charged Soul Core. So, one thing that PoE 1 players might have noticed is this character has both lightning spells and cold spells. That's pretty inefficient, right? It's a big no-no for most builds because any specialization into cold or lightning isn't going to affect the other element. And generic elemental damage increases are not going to be as powerful as focusing on a single element. Well, in PoE 2 we have another major new system to introduce to solve these kinds of problems. And it starts, oddly enough, with weapon swap. Now, in PoE 1, weapon swap isn't really used much for its originally intended purpose. We imagine that people are going to be swapping in and out between different weapons to deal with whatever situation
Pamiętacie, jak mówiłem 2 miesiące temu o weapon swapie?
And a large reason for that is because it's really, really awkward. In PoE 2, we wanted to solve all of that. The staff Octavian is using here has an ice mod on it that makes it great for when he's using his ice spells. But we would also like to be able to make sure that this build works just as well for his lightning spells. If Octavian equips his previous staff in his second weapon set, you can see that it appears on the character's back. Now, we're going to open up the skill screen.
Jezu, jak testujesz inne spele, to ci zmienia staffa.
You can see here that you can choose which weapon sets are usable with each skill.
O kurwa.
First, we uncheck set 1 from being used by his lightning skills. Then we go through the cold skills and turn those off.
Czyli masz staffa masz broń na przykład na colda i broń na fire'a i sobie wybierasz, że spela fire'em, rzucasz staffem 1, spela coldem, rzucasz staffem 2. O kurwa, jak switch weapona się zajebiście wykorzystany. Patrz. Ja pierdolę. O kurwa. I uwaga, to jest mechanika z Diablo 2. To jest mechanika z Diablo 2, kurwa. Upgrade'owana do nowych standardów, nie?
There's a very short time penalty to switching, so it can be good to leave some skills on both sets if it doesn't matter which weapon set you're using. But we still have a problem. Passives. Wouldn't it be nice if we could specialize in both cold and lightning passives on the character?
No właśnie, co z pasywami?
Well, in PoE 2 you can.
Co?
Hopefully Mark can deal with those monsters while we do this demo. So, we're on the passive skill screen here, and you can see that we are close to both a cold and a lightning cluster. At the top right of the screen, you can see that we have some weapon set specific points to allocate. If Octavian holds shift, he can allocate set 1 to the cold passives. and then allocate set 2 to the
Masz
lightning
2
passives.
sety pasywek przypisane do konkretnych typów broni i chuj.
Check it out. As we use our weapon swap, the skills allocate changes from one build to the other
Ja
automatically.
pierdolę, switchisz broni, ci pasywy
So
switchuję.
whenever we cast the
O
appropriate spell, the
kurwa.
character's passives reconfigure on the fly to the correct build for that spell.
Kurwa. Ej, ale
Now,
wiecie
you
jak
can't
to
do this with
skomplikuje
every single
tworzenie
passive on
buildów?
the tree. Only points granted from skill books will allow
Kurwa,
you to
teraz
build specialization.
mam
You're not going to be changing from a mace slamming warrior into a fire element with the pressing of
To
the
będzie
button.
kurwa,
But it certainly
to będzie
increases
trzeba
the
być
number of options you
psychopatą,
have
żeby
to
buildu
build.
nie zjebać.
There's a huge number of places where the
To
system can shine.
strasznie
You could
zwiększa
augment your
trudność
dagger
tworzenia
shadow build with
buildu.
traps, or have a great curse setup on your witch with one spec and then move
No
your
możesz
counter
grać z
spells with the
tym
other, for
połem i
example.
mele
It
naraz.
really opens up your options.
Bez kitu, nie?
Now, another fun metagem to try out is called Barrier Invocation.
Ja pierdolę.
This works a little bit like the trigger gems I talked about before.
To ciekawe,
This one
czy możesz
charges up as your
defensywne
energy
sobie
shield is hit by
przypisywać pod
monsters.
tarczę
We're gonna put an Ice Nova
i
in this
chłopie
one.
mieć taki panic
The more
button na
energy
przykład na
shield you
Switchu,
lose,
nie?
the more charge builds up. We'll just get that one equipped there. Yep. So yeah, the more energy shield you lose, the more charge will build up until the point you're able to cast the socketed skill instantly. There we go. So you lose some, so you lose some energy shield, and at just the right time, invoke Ice Nova to cast all the stacked up copies in one instant cast. If you
Już,
keep losing shield, you'll
kurwa.
build up even more
To
charge for
dobrze
even more
mówicie,
casts.
widzowie, z
So it's a
takim
great
ten,
defensive option in an emergency.
z taką mechaniką gry to już poba nie trzeba włączać, kurwa. Jeśli PoE nie trzeba włączać, pop sam wystarczy. Że można w poba samego grać. Niech Twitch da kategorię Path of Building ES-a. To można cały kanał o poba oprzeć w ogóle bez gameplayu.
Overkill. And here we are back at the Charged Soul Core.
A widzowie, jak gdzie ulty kurwa sklepi Battle Pass. Dzięki Spiralu za 30 suwa.
Just take it.
Z-Cold. Ale ma opening boss. O kurwa. Pa!
D4.
Don't die this time, guys.
O kurwa, Maywenki atak.
Ten 0,00010 zł. PoE2 wciąga dupą D4 100 miliardów krotnie.
Hopie, PoE wciąga D4 dupą jak kurwa koks stary.
Podkreślenie Snackers 1,6
Ci szybko.
zł i 66 groszy. Tymczasem nie da się dodać więcej starzy niż 4.
Kurwa. Tymczasem w Diablo 4 piąty staż jest problematyczny. O kurwa. Pituk, dzięki za 6 miesiąc. Ja tu Maywenka krzyczy, czy mi się wydaje.
To wygląda. Jebać
Wy słyszeliście to? To Maywenka była. Ty zbagował się boss, nie ma stana? Jakie... O kurwa, jakie ataki fajne. Pa! Nie, dobra, to nie jest Maywenka. Nie, to czarodziejka tak gada. Patrz, ale wiecie, to jest zajebiste, że te mechaniki są bardzo dobre indykatory mają tego, gdzie się pojawią. Telegraficznie są świetnie przedstawione. PoE2 to jest mix kurwa PoE1 Diablo i Soulsów. Chuj. Ja tu strasznie Soulsy czuję, a wy? I te mechaniki genialnie wyglądają.
Nice. So that's Path of Exile 2. These areas, as well as around half of each of the first 4 acts, are available to play at the 3
Ale
demo zones around
szafir,
ExileCon.
dzięki za 21 miesiąc.
Now, if you're physically here at this event and you get to play the demo,
Soulcore?
remember,
To
it's a
był
different game
jakiś
than before. It's a lot
gustowy
harder.
item.
You're probably going to run the first pack of monsters and just die.
First.
I really recommend you read the
To jest motyw walów, to jest wzięcie rdzennych kultur Ameryki, a to nie są, to nie bazuje na takiej australijskiej mitologii związanej tam z jakimiś takimi właśnie...
So your next question is likely to be, when is the beta?
Chyba nie wiem, czy tak można teraz myśleć, ale chyba aborygeni, nie?
Adding skills and balancing everything. The closed beta is going to start on June 7th, 2024.
O,
Path of Exile 2 has
zaraz.
been a long time coming, and we're incredibly excited to be near the finish line, but we're just not quite there yet. We're
Znaczy tu
determined
tak,
not
tu
to
byli
rush this
Aztekowie, to
and make sure we
prawda.
get everything right.
Faktycznie, dobrze mówicie,
In
tu
the
byli
meantime, there's a lot
Aztekowie,
of
ale w
stuff
PoE
here we
większość chyba
I'll
bazuje
hand back over to Chris, and
na...
he's going to talk about what's coming up.
na australijskiej, nie? Takiej mitologii i legendach.
Very much.
Z tego co mi mówili, nie wiem, ja się nie znam. Ale to prawda, to było azteckie mocno.
Robert 10 zł. Nadchodzący Campfire od Bliss Plusem. Oglądaliśmy ExileCon i wspólnie ustaliliśmy, że zabijamy się w pizdu z tym D4. Nie było tematu.
Za 10 diabłów wypierdalamy.
I am very impressed it went that well. So, as Jonathan explained, Path of Exile 1 will continue to be its own unique game once Path of Exile 2 comes out. We will continue to update it with expansions and leagues going forward. And because accounts and microtransactions are shared between the 2 games, and their expansion releases are offset from each other, it's super easy to jump between them and effectively play both if you want. So I'm going off script for a second here and just going to explain this a bit better. Imagine we release a Path of Exile 2 expansion, right?
Oni
So
chyba
everyone dives in
oglądali
and
ten
plays it.
campfire i
Let's
są
say
tak
out of the
po
13-week
prostu pijani,
cycle,
kurwa,
you're gonna play for,
endorfinami.
some hardcore players play for the first few weeks, some people play for most of the time. We're going to
Nie
aim
jest
a Path of
Bruce
Exile
Willis,
1 expansion to
ten
come out
koleś z
towards the end of that
Berserców,
cycle, say
kurwa.
4 or 5 weeks from the end, which also lasts for 3 months. So because Path of Exile 2 has more content and is a significantly larger game,
Potrzebowali hosta, to wzięli aktora z dużym
Path of Exile
stażem.
2 for the majority of the cycle, and then either keep playing if you want to keep playing Path of Exile 2,
Mam wyjebany Blizzarda. Blizzard tym Diablo 4 jest najlepszą reklamą PoE, jaka kiedykolwiek powstała.
or until the next Path of Exile 2 one comes out. And of course, because your purchases are shared, if you were to buy support effects or microtransactions in either, they're just available on your characters in the other. Speaking of Path of Exile 1 expansions, we've got one coming out in just 3 weeks, on August 18th. Let's watch the trailer for Path of Exile, Trial of the Ancestors.
Oho, trailerek nowy, widzowie.
Such as yours do not go quietly into the night.
Jakie kolory. Jezu, jak ja lubię takie jak ten morski kolor, nie? On tak dobrze wygląda.
Welcome to the halls of the dead.
Wiecie, co jest najlepsze? Że oni nie próbują kopiować stylów innych gier, tylko stworzyli swój własny, no nie? Właśnie mają takie azteckie, takie australijskie, kurwa, vibe rytualne, nie?
Prace nad 5 zakładką będą nadal.
Dokładnie tak będzie. Ty, widzowie PvP. Jaka gra bez kitu bazowała na takiej azteckiej mitologii? Loki, okej. Gothic 2, okej. Rizeny. Co jeszcze? Curse of Dead Gods. Mortal Kombat, ale w pewnym to tam z Kotalkanem, no nie? To w miarę późno. Gridfall, no. 16 nowych stone'ów atlasowych. Trolle Zandelarii w WoWie, tak.
In the end, only one can become champion.
To jest Nowa Liga, ja się zagadałem. 18 august. Kurwa, widzowie, my 20 meeting, 2 dni po streamuję Ligę i jadę na jeden na
event. In the Karui Afterlife, the fallen chieftains of each tribe participate in a tournament called the Trial of the Ancestors. You will journey to the afterlife, assemble your own team, and enter the tournament to battle those chieftains and earn valuable rewards. As you play through areas in the Ancestor Challenge League, you'll find tradable silver coins. Using them will take you to the Kurui Afterlife, where you will encounter Navali, who you may remember from the Prophecy League. Each coin allows you to play a match of the tournament.
6 złotych i
You start the
66
tournament with a
groszy.
basic team
Dawaj
consisting
łysy,
of 3
jedziesz z
warriors.
nim.
The tournament is double elimination, meaning you're allowed to have 1 loss without consequence. A second loss eliminates you from the tournament. Your team will compete against 10 other tribes, and you choose who you're going to challenge next out of the teams left in the tournament.
System drabinki
When you start a
turniejowy.
match, you see the configuration of the enemy team and get to place your team of warriors on the battlefield to challenge theirs. You and your party of exiles will play alongside your warriors. So while this league does have many elements of an auto-battler, you're right there fighting alongside them. During a match, when a warrior dies, they respawn at their totem after a short time. If their totem is destroyed, then they are instantly killed and can't respawn. The team that destroys all of the opposing totems wins. If you're playing a hardcore character though, don't worry. Hinokora, the goddess of death, is watching over you and will restore your soul to your body, so you can't permanently die in the afterlife. Like that. In the Trial of the Ancestors, strategy and tactics are key. Every unit has its own strengths and weaknesses that must be utilized to win matches. The turtle is really slow and really tanky. It's perfect for either defensive positioning to stop flankers or offensive positioning to tank hits for you if you're pushing through the middle. It's not great in the center or flank positions due to its slow movement speed. The Tuatara is a quick and deceptive unit, which is relatively well balanced for all positions. This version of the Tuatara has a stealth ability, which makes it perfect for the flanking position to sneak through enemy defenses and take out unprotected totems from the side. The Goliath of Night is a disruptor unit, and it's ideally placed in a center position to intercept enemies that are chasing you. You can also allocate it to defenses so that it disrupts enemies that are trying to kill your totems by stunning them. So in this match here, we've set up a Tuatara in a flanking position, a turtle on defense to guard our totems, and a Goliath to follow us as we attack up the middle. Our plan is to work with the Goliath to distract the enemy front line so the flanking Tuatara can get through and destroy some of their totems. Teamwork. Upon winning a match, you earn favor and other rewards. I'll talk about the other rewards shortly. There are a lot. You have a separate amount of favor with each tribe, and you can spend it by talking to their chieftain to recruit warriors and purchase field items and equipment that your team can use. Each tribe has specific specialities. For example, Hinokora's tribe manipulates life and death. Rongo Kurai's tribe is slow and tanky, with an emphasis on stuns and knockbacks. You can recruit warriors from many different tribes and mix and match them together into your team based on what you need. Field items are items that are placed on the battlefield and can be activated during the match to, for example, revive a warrior or heal your entire team. If a field item isn't consumed within a match, it persists on to the next match. But your warriors, their equipment, and your field items are all wiped between tournaments. You enter each tournament fresh. Your success in a tournament updates your overall ranking, which helps you in better rewards and subsequent ones. Speaking of rewards, let's discuss the good part, what you can earn for succeeding at the Trial of the Ancestors. You can tell this gets me excited. Okay. You get a reward as you win each round of the tournament, and these rewards are visible when you're selecting which tribe you want to play against. They'll help inform your decision, as some of them are regular rewards and some are exclusive new rewards you can only get from the Trial of the Ancestors. I'm literally tripping over my words to get to the part where I can explain tattoos.
Pierwszy sezon w D4 wygląda jak
The Ancestors reward you with special tattoos that are not applied to your skin, but they're engraved on your soul. This process can transform what your attribute skills on the passive tree do, basically the attribute highway nodes generally. The regular ones can only be applied to basic attribute skills and allow you to convert your tree's attribute highways into something more useful for you. For example, this one converts a small dexterity skill into movement speed. Each tribe has its own exclusive passive tattoos. This tattoo converts a small strength skill into additional fire resistance. This one converts a small intelligence skill into additional lightning damage. And this one converts a small strength skill into one that summons a minion when you take a savage hit from a unique enemy. But don't go overboard on the number of skills you convert with tattoos, as you'll probably need at least some of your attributes left to equip items. Each of the 10 tribes has an exclusive unique item that you can earn. These rarely show up as rewards for defeating that tribe in a match. Katava's Hunger is a unique majestic plate that you can earn by defeating the Katava tribe. As you can see, it grants an immense amount of life for a single item, providing you don't have any life on any other pieces of your equipment. While this is tricky to accomplish, it also frees up all those other potential life slots to be something else that benefits your build.
Fajna zbrojka nawet, nie?
This amulet is a unique item you can earn by defeating the Arohongui tribe. It has the powerful effect of causing the flasks to instantly recover life and mana whenever you're low. This could potentially be a powerful panic button, or maybe you want to build around permanently being on low life or mana, so all of your flask usage is instant. If you manage to win the entire tournament, you'll not only receive the reward for the final match, but Hinokora will also give you a choice of 3 additional... Sorry, button didn't work. Of 3 additional exclusive items. Let's have a look at some of the things you may be offered. First up, there are 4 unique items that exclusively come from Hinokora for completing the tournament. This belt, for example, lists a plethora of really powerful properties, both beneficial and detrimental.
Ty, no ale z tamtym amuletem, jak się klikniesz, że jesteś zawsze low life, to masz 100% uptime potek. Automatycznie się non-stop potkę klika, potka po
Maybe you're able to
potce.
find some ways to build around the detrimental effects to create as much upside as possible. Hinokora also has a selection of special, more advanced passive tree tattoos that you can only receive from her. This one transforms a 30 intelligence notable attribute skill into one that increases the level of all of your intelligence gems. You're only allowed 1 copy of the specific attribute combination tattoo on a tree.
To jest w kurwę silne.
Hinokora can also award you with a new type of item called an omen. These are small items that sit in your inventory until a condition is met, at which point they are consumed and something happens. In this case, when you reach 25% life, your flasks are all replenished. Now don't worry, each player can only consume 1 omen per combat area, so you don't have any reason to fill your entire inventory with them. This one creates a portal on death. We made it for me. It won't try to save your life, but it will save you some time. This one grants you Soul Eater when you level up. It's definitely worth carrying around for that occasional massive power boost. Omens are tradable but hard to get, so use them carefully. I shudder to think about how much this one is going to be worth in the presence of those incredibly rare unique weapons from 320. Now note, going off script again here, back in the day, when we had stuff like the Prophecy and so on that let you upgrade to rare forcibly on a specific base type, we had to block the good items by putting crap uniques on the, sorry, I meant upgrade to unique. We put crap uniques on that base type so that you couldn't get it every time. Well, we stopped doing that, so a lot of the uniques that were upgraded in 320 are just the only thing on the base type. So items like this let you deterministically get something quite valuable, hence they are quite rare.
Kurwa, giga fajny
The most
właśnie,
exciting
no.
one, though. Finally, Hinokora can offer you a lock of her hair. This is a very special currency item that lets you foresee the result of using another currency item to craft something. This means, for example, you can know whether it's worth exalting your item because you'll know exactly what the outcome is.
O kurwa, ale
Hinokora's lock
fajne.
will slot into your crafting pipeline with powerful consequences.
Bez kitu.
The Trial of the Ancestors offers a wide
Do
selection of valuable
rerolowania
new rewards
itemów
as
czy
you complete
coś,
matches
ale
and
giga
tournaments. We really
dobre.
look forward to
Masz
seeing what
dobry item,
strategies you
jesteś
develop
kurwa
for
tak,
building,
chciałem mieć trochę
equipping,
lepszy.
carefully
I
placing and
używasz,
playing
jest szansa,
alongside your
żebym miał
tribe.
trochę lepszy.
So that's the new Challenge League, but Path of Exile expansions contain more than just a new league every 3 months. In each update, we also augment Path of Exile's
Ty, ta
endgame
liga
and shift
strasznie
the
duży
metagame
power
with
creep,
new
mam
gems and
wrażenie, do
balance
siły
changes.
postaci,
This
nie?
expansion
Te
is no
tatusy
exception.
na
I'm going
travel
to
not
explain the
i
other
chuj
changes in a
silne
medium
imo.
amount
Jak
of
tam jest
detail.
kurwa
I'm
1
conscious
do
that we
skill
have both
gemów
new and
wszystkich, nie? To
existing
jest
players.
kurwa OP.
For new players, I'm going to try to include some extra content to help make the changes more
Wiadomo, że tam jest to na
understandable.
tych
You can
plus
find out all the
30, ale
detail
no
in the
nadal
patch
te plus
notes and other
30
information
to
we'll be
one są
posting in a
łatwo
few weeks before
dostępne, nie?
release.
Bo i tak one są
Let's
jakieś
start
blisko
with how the
klasterów,
Trial
do
of the
których idziesz,
Ancestors
nie?
expansion
No możesz
expands
mieć
Path of
jeden
Exile's
taki.
endgame.
A wiesz, no to jest stary plus
In
1 do
December
wszystkich
last year,
skilli,
we
których
released an
wcześniej nie
expansion
mogłeś
called The
mieć, nie?
Forbidden Sanctum, which introduced the Sanctum Challenge League. This league was a roguelike game set within Path of Exile where you would randomly explore a randomly generated sanctum 1 room at a time, alongside your regular play. You'd pick which rooms you wanted to explore out of several options and accumulate beneficial boons and detrimental afflictions that made your run easier and harder, respectively. Not only did Sanctum work really well as a league, but it also had the potential to be added to Path of Exile as part of its core endgame content, alongside systems like
wiecie, że
mapping,
to
delve,
Sanctum
and heist.
zajebista, to super
Well, in
brzmi.
this expansion, the Forbidden Sanctum is back.
Zajebiście. Ja muszę przetestować to Sanctum, ono świetnie brzmi. No mi się wydaje, że ma taki syndrom kolejnego rana, nie? Cały czas.
Core content in Path of Exile's endgame. You'll initially meet Divinia, the Sanctum NPC, in Act 10. Sanctums are now tradable items that you can find while playing maps in the endgame. A forbidden tome represents a whole floor of the Sanctum, and its rooms can be played back to back, or you can take breaks between them and do something else if you choose. Upon successfully completing that Sanctum floor, the next floor is generated as a tradable item with all of the state of your Sanctum run built in. This means that the item stores what boons and afflictions you had, what rewards you've locked in, and how much resolve you have left. You can then either play this floor or trade it to someone else if it feels more beneficial. For example, let's say you manage to lock in a really valuable reward. The example here is a mirror of Calandra, but you'll
I mi się wydaje, że w PoE jak oni coś robią i ktoś mówi, ty, a jakby to kurwa zrobić tak, no chuja zróbmy. No dawaj, dodajemy.
This is an example here where the player has a very good reward locked in, but a massive pile of dangerous afflictions and only one resolve on them. If you don't feel capable of completing the rest of the Sanctum from this point, then it would normally be a write-off, right? If you gave this to me, no way am I getting that mirror. But you can now trade the Sanctum state to someone else who is willing to pay for the chance to earn the mirror, or lose it. And you can look at expected value in economics, right? It's worth some percentage of that mirror. So you trade it for like 5 chaos to someone, they run it and lose their chaos. Your relics, which act as passive bonuses within the Sanctum, are locked in for the run when you start the first floor and can't be changed for the rest of the run. Speaking of relics, they're now tradable and have been rebalanced around this. To those of you wondering, we have decided against bringing back sanctified relics for now. A complete Sanctum run now requires killing the final boss, Lycia, in both her first and second form. She will always drop a unique relic, and these have been reworked and replaced as we rebalanced everything. An important aspect of the new Sanctum balance is that your primary defenses now have some effect on protecting your resolve. Your armor allows you to mitigate resolve loss, and your evasion grants you a chance to avoid resolve loss entirely, a lot like how armor and evasion work. Your energy shield grants you resolve Aegis, which is a mechanic that works similarly to how energy shield behaves for life. In light of the new defensive opportunities and learnings from the original Challenge League, we've rebalanced the difficulty of Sanctum, especially in later floors, and have worked to add more monster and room variety to runs. We've added new boons and afflictions themed around the new defensive mechanics and have rebalanced many of the other ones. Like other optional endgame systems that involve tradable items, players who don't want to play Sanctum can trade their Sanctums to other players in exchange for an item or currency that benefits them more. Successful Sanctum play can generate a lot of rewards. It'll potentially be possible to build characters dedicated to Sanctum running and just farm Sanctums repeatedly in order to profit. Sanctum isn't the only improvement that Trial of the Ancestors brings to Path of Exile's endgame. We're also introducing 16 new Atlas Keystone passives to the Atlas passive tree. As a quick summary for new players joining us, the Atlas tree is a system that allows you to customize your endgame experience in Path of Exile. As you complete different maps, you gain skill points that can be allocated in the tree. You could use these points to modify the behavior of different content you encounter in in-game maps to make it more difficult or more rewarding, or to behave entirely differently. The system allows you to double down on the content you enjoy and avoid content you don't. Keystones are really impactful passives that totally change how endgame systems behave. Usually they have an element of give and take and require you to come up with new strategies to take advantage of them. Each of these 16 new Atlas Keystones changes how you might interact with Path of Exile's endgame. Let's have a look at some of them now. We will reveal the rest of them before the release of Trial of the Ancestors in a few weeks. Extreme Archaeology completely changes how you play expedition encounters. Instead of placing a series of regular explosives, you now place one gigantic explosive. Every single chest or monster in the blast radius is affected by every remnant in that radius. Speaker of the Dead makes it so that tormented spirits can possess you rather than possessing monsters, boosting your stats instead. While possessed, you can touch monsters just like a spirit can, making them stronger and more rewarding. It's kind of getting silly at this point, isn't it? Blight is like a tower defense minigame inside Path of Exile. The Cassia's Pride keystone makes it so that Blight monsters take significantly less damage from players and significantly more damage from Blight towers. This basically lets you go all in playing it like an actual tower defense game.
So,
because we can.
Legendary notki do klasy teraz do konkretnych
Lucid
mechanik.
Dreams makes it so that Val's side areas in your maps are no longer corrupted, meaning that you can use currency items to change their mods. That's right, when you encounter a Val side area, the keystone lets you craft it. Yeah, so we rebalanced the side area mods, we've improved reward outcomes, and we've made the downside mods a bit more punishing, you know, just to make it interesting if you try to go for the good outcomes. You may also rarely encounter a unique Val side area. Destructive play makes it so that the Maven will summon between 1 and 3 extra random map bosses when you are fighting witnessed map bosses. This keystone is analogous to the Eldritch Altar keystones that make those influences more difficult but more rewarding. There are another 11 new keystones that we'll reveal over the next few weeks. Together, these 16 keystones mean that regardless of how you enjoy your maps, you'll have plenty of new ways to play Path of Exile's endgame in this expansion. And I should note, in the initial draft of the keynote, I painstakingly went through every single keystone. It took like 10 minutes. But we'll put them in the news to save you some time here. In the Trial of the Ancestors expansion, we're shifting Path of Exile's metagame in several ways. The first is by introducing 14 new support gems, which are designed to take existing categories of skills and provide entirely new ways to play them. For full information, check the final gem offers when we post them in the next few weeks. Let's have a look at a handful of these support gems now. In Path of Exile, war cries usually buff your party but don't directly hurt monsters. The Corrupting Cry support gem turns war cries into damage-dealing skills by making them inflict corrupted blood on monsters affected by the war cry or by your attacks that it exerts. The Returning Projectiles support gem causes projectiles from supported skills to return to you, piercing all targets but dealing a little less damage. I think there's another example too.
Fajny multi-shotcik.
The Fresh Meat support gem causes minions created by supported gems to gain adrenaline, critical strike chance, and critical strike damage for a duration after they're first summoned. So you've got to work out a way to keep refreshing your minions. That makes them a lot more powerful.
Yes,
the Flamewood support gem causes totems to trigger projectile mortars at enemies that hit them. This is particularly synergistic with totems that can taunt enemies, such as Decoy Totem, or one of the new Chieftain Ascendancy skills that I might talk about shortly. The Sacrifice support gem works on spells that you either cast yourself or through totems. These spells now sacrifice a percentage of your current life or the totem's life to gain additional chaos damage based on how much life was sacrificed. The Frigid Bond support gem affects link skills and causes a cold mist to come over them. Enemies caught in the beam are chilled and are dealt cold damage over time. This creates a new tool for a cold damage over time build, requiring strategic placement of both yourself and your linked ally. I mentioned it was going to get silly. The Locust Mine support gem looks OP and affects attack skills that use bows and wands. Instead of directly using the supported skill, you throw mines in an arc that use that skill for you, targeting your location when you detonate them. In addition to these gems, there are another 7 that we'll be revealing over the next few weeks. In addition to the 14 new support gems, our balance work for the Trial of the Ancestors involved us revamping 2 Ascendancy classes. These are the subclasses that you can specialize in as you play through Path of Exile's campaign. Each main character class has 3 Ascendancy classes available. In the last expansion, Crucible, we overhaul the Pathfinder and Saboteur. This time, it's the Guardian and Chieftain, which are specializations of the Templar and Marauders, respectively. While we were very happy with the theme of the Guardian, it was falling behind the power level and popularity of other Ascendancy classes. Our changes in this expansion have modernized the class and will present you with more relevant build opportunities than before. Brace yourself. Okay. Path of Exile 102. Harmony of Purpose can power up parties using link skills. Time of Need now completely cleanses and heals you every 4 seconds. Radiant and Unwavering Crusade both fully embrace the Holy Summoner theme by giving you access to some exciting new types of minions that are exclusive to this Ascendancy class. We have this picture on the announcement page, pathofexile.com/ancestor for you to scrutinize. Next. While the Guardian's revamp was similar to that of the Pathfinder, the Chieftain has received the Saboteur treatment. To be honest, we were unhappy about many aspects of this Ascendancy class in its old form, and so we have completely redesigned it. You can play it now. It's basically an entirely new Ascendancy class with the same name and art and a new way of approaching its themes. Its new skills let you, among other things, cause enemies to explode, turn off enemies' fire resistance while you're stationary, convert passive skills to apply to fire damage, and have your fire resistances apply to your cold and lightning resistances. I'll just give you a sec more to read. All right, that's on the site too for you to check out. It's pretty powerful now. To celebrate the release of the Trial of the Ancestors, we'll be hosting a boss kill event. To enter, create a hardcore solo self-found character in the Ancestor League and race to kill all 7 Uber Pinnacle bosses on the same character. Note that unlike the last event we ran, this one is not a ruthless event. We'll post more information about the event and its prizes in the news before release. Best of luck to everyone. For the Ancestor Challenge League, we're launching 2 new series of supporter packs, the Shade and Disciple packs. Each tier contains the pack's full face value and points, alongside several exclusive microtransactions. These packs are only available for the duration of the Ancestor League, and will leave the store forever when it ends. As always, the microtransactions in these packs are purely cosmetic, and do not affect the character's power or progression in any way, despite how cool they look. The Shade series of supporter packs contains 6 exclusive microtransactions. All right, the Sarcophagus back attachment imprisons an unspeakable evil that struggles to break free. Nearby monsters send it into a frenzy, and enemy deaths provide it with souls to feast upon. The Stygian Waypoint shackles visitors to your hideout in chains, yourself included. These chains are just cosmetic though, and they break as soon as you move. It would supposedly be a gameplay advantage to be able to imprison people. The Ferryman's armor set is so full of trapped souls that some of them try to escape. Moving while wearing the boots will leave souls in your wake trying to break free.
Oh.
The Infernal Portal opens a gate to the Netherrealm when you approach. This prompted a lot of internal discussion about whether using Hellfire to heat your hideout is actually safe and practical. The Demon-bound crafting bench allows you to enslave a malevolent entity to craft items for you. Be warned, it has a sharp tongue and will mock you mercilessly.
You chained me for such a paltry use?
The Nebula character effect causes items you pick up to orbit you in an ethereal cloud of loot.
O kurwa, jakie ładne. Patrz, podnosisz itemy i biegają wokół ciebie.
The Disciple series of supporter packs also contains 6 exclusive microtransactions.
Na jaja to robią.
I'm going to put that in the top pack. The Hero's Landing Finisher effect summons a marble statue from the heavens to execute unique monsters you defeat. You decide whether it's the sword or the huge lump of rock that actually kills them. The Bell Tower map device heralds the opening of a new map with a peal of bells. Start to run out of portals though, and it will reflect your desperate situation.
Fajne.
This is fine. The Cathedral armor set refracts light through your character, creating beautiful patterns on the ground around it. If your life gets low, it responds in kind.
Oh.
The Observer Diamond Flask summons a tentacled mass that fires its eye lasers at enemies you critically strike while the flask is active. Again, cosmetic. The Currency Orb charge effect lets you pick from a number of different currency types to replace your charges with, as long as you've used that currency item anytime from today onwards. Some people... We have to store it in the database, right? Some people will show they can be part of the exclusive club of players who have actually used a Mirror of Calandra. This effect also causes your charges to display in town. So the theory is you go use your standard mirror, which we all have, right? The Faithful Hound Pet is a very good doggo, and it knows a few tricks. You can command it to sit, roll over, or play dead. And yes, you can pet the dog. These new packs are available right now at pathofexile.com/purchase, and purchases like these directly fund the ongoing development of Path of Exile 1 and 2. Meanwhile, the Lithomancer and Enchanter packs leave the store forever at the launch of Trial of the Ancestors, so now's your last chance to purchase them.
Ile kosztuje ten supporter pack? Kurwa, jak chyba kupuję widzowie.
The fun part. For the last ExileCon, we developed a special card game that encapsulated the full gameplay arc of Path of Exile over the course of the event. Players could defeat monsters, progressively upgrade their items, use currency items to craft their equipment, find and run maps, and eventually defeat pinnacle bosses to earn rewards. It was a whole lot of fun, and we've had so many requests to run it again. So this year, we're proud to bring you the 2023 version of the ExileCon card game. And like all Path of Exile expansions, it even includes a challenge league. In your swag bags, you'll have found a box of ExileCon cards, and then a gentleman outside will have asked to purchase them from you for real money. If you have any cards left, you can use these to challenge GGG staff members who are walking around ExileCon as monsters. They'll be wearing t-shirts showing the monster's stats, which include symbols for their attack and defense. Using the cards in your deck box, and those you accumulate by defeating monsters, put together one set of armor, one weapon and shield, or a two-handed weapon, and an amulet and 2 rings. To defeat a monster, the damage on your weapon has to be equal to or larger than the defense of the monster, and the defense on the armor and shield have to be equal to or larger than the attack of the monster. It's that simple. There are some wildcard symbols. It's explained on the rules in the box. Rings and amulets are pretty hard to find, and they can be used for either attack or defense. So to attack a monster, politely approach a staff member wearing the shirt, introduce yourself, and show them the set of equipment you want to use. If your symbols match, then you'll have defeated them, and they'll give you a reward and remove some of the durability from your items. They do this by clicking the card, so if you want to keep the card pristine, don't necessarily attack someone with it. It will get damaged in combat. Be careful not to waste your best items on low-level monsters. You're not allowed to attack the same monster twice in a row, so you need to explore ExileCon to find different GGG staff members. You can get maps by defeating monsters marked as gods. Take these maps to the map device to run them and progress through the tiers. On the back of the box is a list of quests. As you complete quests, you can visit the crafting bench on the top floor to receive rewards for completing those quests. While you're there, you can also use your currency items to modify your equipment.
No.
I mentioned that
this year's version of the card game introduced a challenge league. That league is Delve.
Accumulate sulfite and bring it to the Delve wall, sorry for the bad photo, it's hard with lighting, on the middle floor. Each sulfite card you hand in allows you to explore one tile of the Azurite mine. You'll all be working collaboratively throughout the event to delve deep into the mine, fight the monsters that lurk there, and uncover its treasures. And I feel really bad for the poor people that had to hang 3,000 cards on that wall. You may eventually be able to challenge the pinnacle bosses if you manage to get really far in the card game. I'm the Searing Exarch, Jonathan is the Eater of Worlds, and Mark is the Maven. Defeating any of the 3 of us will reward you with a Mirror of Calandra enamel pin. This pin is exclusively available for winning the card game and won't be sold in the merchandise shop. Each person can only receive a maximum of 2 mirrors, and when they run out, we can't give any more out, so try to win the game early. The reason for 2 is a very typical Path of Exile reason, 1 for you and 1 to trade. All right, it's almost time to go and experience ExileCon 2023. Aside from the card game, we've prepared a full weekend of activities for you. There's a busy roster of talks and interviews on the main stage and the streamer stage. We've posted a schedule at pathofexile.com/ExileCon, so you can see what is happening when and where. The schedule also includes information on meet and greet sessions. Our special guests this year include a roster of many of your favorite streamers, but also some game development industry friends we've met over the last 16 years. We're proud to once again welcome the creators of the Diablo series, David Brevik, Max Schaefer, and Eric Schaefer, as well as Travis Baldry, who you may know from Fate, Torchlight, and his popular fantasy books, or even the books he's narrated. They'll not only have meet and greet sessions, but also participating in an action RPG roundtable discussion alongside me and Eric tomorrow on the stage. In all of the developer talks and panels, ExileCon attendees will be able to scan a QR code on their phone to submit questions for the speakers to discuss in the panel or on the Q&A section of the talk. The Path of Exile 2 ExileCon demo is a large one, and you may want to play it multiple times this weekend. In each session, you can pick from one of 4 character classes, which start at various points throughout the first 4 acts of Path of Exile 2's campaign. Around half of each act is included in the demo, and your session time is limited to 45 minutes before you have to let someone else have a turn. Remember, as Jonathan said earlier, this demo is hard. Read the signs that explain how your skills combine together. Dodge roll is your new friend. You should also swing by the Path of Exile mobile demo at the chill out area on the top floor and check out its progress. It's coming along really well, and we'd love to get your feedback
ileż
on
można
it.
było. Moglibyście do Blizzarda nauczyć, żeby to wpierdolić na sam początek panelu. Oni wliczają w marketing, nie?
Which include a few from our community t-shirt design competition. We've created a range of 24 enamel pins. You'll have found a random one in your swag bag. If you approach me and I'm wearing a pin, feel free to swap for the one you've got if you'd like. Happy to trade. You can purchase the others in the shop. As mentioned before, there's also the super exclusive Mirror of Calandra pin that is only available to winners of the card game. Maybe you're able to trade for a full set. There are 2 new posters. One is the Atlas passive tree,
Wiecie, że nie
and the
przenoszą
other
trading
is
z
the
gry na
periodic
kurwa
table of
trading na
currency.
event? Patrzcie na to!
In addition to reprinting the incredibly popular Celestial Cat socks, we've also introduced the Chaos Orb socks, better for business meetings. There's also a range of 4 desk pads to keep your play area tidy. You can check them out at the demo zone. We have a limited range of ExileCon 2019 merchandise available in the store as well. Make sure to hit it up early if you want some of this, because stocks of the older items are quite limited. We have plenty of new merchandise for everyone though, and I think I might have underestimated that. The ExileCon livestream concludes tomorrow with our grand racing finale, where 4 players compete for up to $10,000 and the title of ExileCon 2023 Racing Champion. Afterwards, we're hosting an after party at 8 p.m. at the venue.
Ja pierdolę,
If you're
kurwa,
watching
jak oni
from home,
takiego dobrze
please note that
garniają.
because there are multiple things going on at the same time here, and we can only stream one of them live, we'll be restreaming 3 of today's talks tomorrow before the event starts. So to be clear, they're occurring here, people can watch them in person, but you can't watch them at that time because we're streaming something else. So we're going to restream those tomorrow in the 3 hours where it's way too early to do it in New Zealand, but you can watch them online from the States and Europe. This makes sure that everyone is fully up to date on all of the talks that have been announced about Path of Exile 2 before the important Q&A in the morning where you get to ask the important questions. If you missed out on attending ExileCon this year, we'll be at Gamescom in Germany in August and PAX West
Właśnie,
in
nic nie
Seattle in
powiedzieć, że to jest
September.
gra
At
usługa.
both shows, the Path of Exile 2 booth will have our ExileCon demo available to play and a small team of Grinding Games developers, including me and Jonathan, to chat to, and we hope to see you there. Thanks so much for joining us this weekend at ExileCon 2023. Have a great show, everyone.
Ja pierdolę. Oni ciągle o tym PoE, kurwa. Co teraz będzie? O renderze w Path of Exile. O Race QT, Diablo podopierdala. Dawaj, let's
second
go.
half, the post-stall cast. For you, I'm Ziggy D, joined once again by Mathel, Rise QT, and Noogie. And we're going to have a bit of a chat about what we've seen so far, and there is a lot to go over. While we distract you while we wait for the next upcoming segment, which will be comparing and interviewing Jonathan about Path of Exile. So until then, though, let's have a little bit of a chat about some of the things we've seen. Why don't we kick things off with the separation of Path of Exile 1 and 2 into separate games, and what that means. What do you guys have any thoughts about that, Mathel?
Yeah, apparently they didn't own enough of my soul.
Ja mój ulubiony streamer MKR powiedział, żeby były nowości, musi być Battle Pass, a tu nie ma. Jest Battle Pass w PoE.
Maybe half of it, something like that, and then maybe do some other things. Instead, you're pretty much locked in a cycle of playing both versions now with new launches continuously, and I'm just going to be doing that basically for the rest of my life. So that's the big shock and twist for me, but other than that, Path of Exile 2 looked amazing, and yeah, nothing short of what I expected.
Awesome. Rise?
I gotta say, I was thinking that that's the right path for Path of Exile. And I mentioned it to a couple people, and they were all going, nah, no, there's no way. They're not doing that. Even developers were like, we're not telling you anything. Turns out, they're doing it. So, like Mathel said, I think there's plenty to be played, and it's going to be for a long time. I think they have a very nice schedule with those last couple of weeks leading into another PoE 1 or PoE 2 expansion. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Noogie?
Yeah, no, I agree. Pretty exciting. I'm not sure. Like, you're still getting PoE 1 and 2 at the same time, just in PoE 2 and all upgraded. So it's not we're going to have this weird split between 1 and 2. You're just getting it all in one package with enough content to
I think them separating the games the way they are does answer a lot of questions about like how certain PoE 1 things might have changed over to the new system, PoE 2 and things like that. So I kind of expected that this isn't super unexpected, but what was really unexpected for me was the fact that they're keeping up with Path of Exile 1 expansions as well, like this split cycle. Like, I did not expect that in a million years.
I don't think anyone did.
Yeah, I thought PoE 1 was done, you know, just go Legacy and you could go back and play the old content if you wanted to, but I didn't realize there was going to be new updates to that. That's good. That's a lot of work for them. They're basically going to be splitting their office into 2 teams at that point and continuing development of both games.
And surely Path of Exile 1 only gets bigger and better from here as well, because for the past few years they've been working like largely on Path of Exile 2, and diverting less of their resources towards the PoE 1 leagues and all that. They've still been good, they've still been big, but like now if they're working on them in tandem, there's probably a large subsection of their team on Path of Exile 1 that maybe came back and
$500
doing the new PoE 2 systems on it as well.
I'm super curious what this means for the long term. Like, do the games like get to steer in different directions? Does Path of Exile 2 get developed in one way, or Path of Exile 1 continues in a different trend? Maybe Path of Exile 1 keeps that like much faster gameplay. Maybe PoE 2 changes to this more combo-focused gameplay, a bit more like interactive, and they might grow apart separately over time potentially, or maybe borrow from each other as well. Well, it could happen there, right?
Yeah, that's a real possibility, because I remember seeing those trailers and thinking that's going to be hard, like especially with the Monk, that's going to be hard to fit into PoE 1, and I mentioned that before, and it turns out, well, they don't got to do it. And yeah, there's been a lot of talk definitely about some of the trailers that they've shown in the past, with the gameplay being more methodical, slower, more tactical, and PoE 1, let's be real, it's not exactly like that anymore. So I think there's going to be plenty for each type of player, but it's nice to have that opportunity to be able, just like with different games, just try something maybe with a little bit different pace, but at the same time, we don't really know.
Yeah, let's talk about that gameplay, like just in an overall sense, the gameplay of Path of Exile 2, what it looked like, what are you guys' impressions of it? What are your first thoughts on that, Mathel?
I mean, I loved how crisp everything looked. For like the ice skills, the lightning, the world that the aesthetics, exactly. The world they built there, and just seeing the new classes doing their new things, like it was exactly what I was hoping to see. It was at some times I think a bit slower than I would have liked, but that's just kind of how it is early on, and then especially during a demo. Yeah, you should have noticed that I think pretty much nothing was like supported too much. There was a lot of extra passives unused.
Yep.
But yeah, like you still want to be able to have your Path of Exile zoom and get through it pretty quick if you really want to. I'm sure we'll get that later on, but yeah, it looked just crisp.
Yeah, I anticipate that players will be playing that same content after a little while, twice as fast, right? With better links, better gear, better builds, and so on. For demonstration purposes, obviously slowed down quite a bit, but it does give you an idea of what they're going for there. And showing that, I think, does allow for us to see a little bit of the idea of like, okay, so maybe we have the fast encounters, players really crushing stuff really quickly, but then maybe like at endgame, certain bosses or certain bosses where you're leveling, have those longer encounters, and this is what Path of Exile can do with that situation. Here's much more dynamic gameplay. We did see very different styles of gameplay too, from the Monk and from the Sorceress. One felt like a fighting game, and then the other one had like meta skills and like a bit more like combination between those different spells and things like that. So how do you guys feel about that? Did you prefer one over the other? Or?
I think just having the dodge available.
Yeah,
every class without a cooldown.
That's big.
It's crazy.
It didn't have a cooldown, right? Like, keep rolling. That's crazy.
And I saw some animation canceling with that too. Yep. That is very, very cool. I think that's much better. Hopefully, it's going to be much better than what it is in current Path of Exile with some of the animation canceling. But yeah, absolutely. I think the Monk, pretty crisp. I think that was looking pretty good. The repositioning, the constant mobility, that's the sort of classes that I enjoy, so really looking forward to that.
I think the going to the PoE 2 and slowing it down a bit, and all the uniqueness of all the different weapon swapping and all that, I think you're going to be able to live more in a certain fantasy in PoE 2 than you've been able to be. Like, there's going to be more of a distinct feel to everything, where even as in PoE 1 you had flame dash on every warrior, like on every marauder, duelist, everything. Like you were a spellcaster, but also a fighter. It's like, So I think like they can really lean into like the uniqueness of every character, and I think that's going to feel real good.
Yeah, and then the weapon swapping as well. They haven't really specified what you can and can't do with that. They were talking a little bit about the different passives for like fire and lightning, but then can you do that with the types of melee weapons and switching that out? Like, that looks like a system that's got a lot of opportunity and probably going to be pretty tricky to develop around sooner or later.
That's what I figured. Looking at the melee, the weapon swapping, I thought it's an opportunity to be able to pick up like several different weapons while you're playing and actually spec into like a couple instead of just going for generic things and hoping that eventually you can commit to a weapon. This way you might at least be able to branch out into two different things, actually spec two different things, and then make a full choice later down the line. But yeah, I think it's going to have a big impact on melee as well as the casters.
Yeah, this all kind of like weaves into what you were talking about, of things becoming a lot more distinct. Like you can have more distinctive styles between each class, but also distinctive styles within that class where you've got a character that's swapping between two weapon types for melee or different staves or different wands or whatever for different caster styles. And that weapon swapping system was nuts. I did not expect that. So, and I thought that they'd be doing something with the skill system, so they kept what they had shown previously with the skill system. We saw the menu where you can drop your skills in and drop your supports in. We saw some very interesting looking meta skills. But then also adding to that, expanding that with this weapon swapping system that actually, like, it looks like it works, right? That's the thing that struck me about is like as a current weapon swapping system. Yeah, occasionally someone uses it.
It works. It's just uncomfortable.
Yeah, like no one really wants to do it. It's like occasional build that takes advantage of it for the most part. But mostly we're leveling off-handed gems, right? It's not very interesting.
What about the gems, though?
Yeah?
I mean, the fact that they're in the... You can just pick them. You get the uncut.
The uncut gems.
Oh, yeah.
That was nice, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That might be ruthless influence, because you can do that. But you're so limited, while here you can really mess around with it a lot. It's a really nice system, especially since there seems to be even more skills and they're going to keep introducing like they have been every league. Right now they're focusing on support skills, but I would imagine those abilities are also going to come into play eventually, so it's just growing.
Well, some of our predictions were about shortening that time from like finding something cool to using it, and that system being able to get a new gem in the field without going back to town works for that, right? You find a cool new weapon, it's got a fire, it's a staff with like some fire skill or meta skill built into it that's going to work really cool with this thing. You pick up your cut gem that you got in your inventory and cut it up into something that's going to work with that, and then you change your build on the fly. And maybe it's also working alongside and synergizing, but different to your currently existing build on your other weapon swap.
Just having the icon on the UI, and you can kind of figure out what the different things are and what your style is versus, let's say you're in PoE 1, you go to a vendor, and all you're faced with is a row of different shaped stone, and you don't really know what to do with it. So I think that's really going to just open up like just your creativity on the fly.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely.
A whole new level of speed running as well.
Oh, yeah.
You don't have to go back to town.
Yeah, well, Rise of Me doing the race tomorrow, and that'll be kind of like sealing off the PoE 1 era of racing somewhat. I'm super interested to see what happens with PoE 2, like competitive play in racing. Like there's so much more that people can interact with there as well. I imagine weapon swapping setups being set up on the fly and cut gems being cut in the field.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I think the skill ceilings just opened up quite a lot.
Going right up.
Yeah, for sure, because that was a big limit for a lot of classes in the past for racing. For instance, duelists, right? It needs that access to all those different weapons. And it wasn't the case, but it will be now.
Yeah. So much more dynamic and distinctive gameplay there, but we also saw a bunch of new classes. Like more classes. What? There's already so many classes in this game. And then like with their ascendancies as well, like splitting that into so many more classes. So now, we got a mercenary, a warrior,
Huntress,
Druid, Sorceress, and Druid.
Yeah. Druid, yeah, there we go.
I'm shocked they didn't show the Druid. Maybe
and that's it. Yeah. And they didn't get rid of any. I thought they were getting rid of some. Like I thought Templar was gone. I thought Templar was being replaced by Monk.
Oh, really?
But they're all still there. It's like adding another class for each of the hybrids.
But they haven't talked about ascendancies, right?
Well, they did in the previous ExileCon.
Yeah,
they touched on it.
Right, but they didn't give us the info on it. No.
Yeah, not yet. I'm guessing in one of the later panels we'll start to touch on some of breaking those down a little bit. But yeah, it seems like their intent is to give much more distinctive starting points now. So like you actually, if you play a monk, it's going to have a much bigger impact on even your early game, not just the ascendancy choices you'll have access to, but also like the sort of skills that you have available and the play style. Much more than just an aesthetic.
And even the party play looked a lot more interesting. It seemed like they were really positioning themselves around each other, and it worked really well, I thought, with some of the more high mobility monk gameplay, and then the sorcerers being more in the back, more bigger cast times and bigger cooldowns. But then those big nukes, really, when I was watching the boss fights, it was kind of, I was gonna cheer Neon on, like, do some damage. He wasn't doing anything, and Octavian was just blasting over and over. So having an opportunity to just go for those big hits and make it work is such a cool concept.
I'm really glad they showed the co-op gameplay because, like you said, it looked really good in that boss fight, that second boss fight, where one player was like really distracting and stuff like that. It looked much more like engaging than current multiplayer Path of Exile, and hard to put my finger exactly why, but I think one of the things was the new crowd control system they showed off, which is brilliant. It builds up crowd control over time. So like you hit them with things that freeze, it builds the freeze up until you get an actual substantial freeze or stun on a boss. We saw big stuns on those bosses. So instead of just like you build a stun character and you get like lots of little stuns, maybe you make a crazy character you can stun lock or something. But most of the time the bosses are immune to this stuff or it just doesn't work.
They've hidden freezes, so it's like you've technically frozen them, but you haven't, and it's there for the sake of numbers, really.
Yeah, but now you're actually like building up to something, and when it happens, it's significant. That's when you're like, you and your party members can start blasting.
Yeah, you can see that they were interrupting some of the mechanics. You could also see that when it came to the gameplay, it wasn't as chaotic as usual PoE 1 gameplay. They were like stacking up for bigger mechanics and really synergizing well together.
Yeah, we saw, and like with the skills that, for example, the Glacial Cascade, the final hit, dealing extra damage on the freeze, like you get your monk getting the freezes off, or the spellcaster getting the freezes off, and then synergizing skills across classes as well. There, where someone triggers that big freeze and someone else gets a big damage play off it.
And then you have all the new boss fights as well for every single zone, built in mind with the fact that we have the ailment system. So you're probably supposed to engage with them differently now as well. It's not just hit them a lot and like move once.
Yeah, that was one of the biggest concerns at the last ExileCon for me, that how do you really build this from the ground up to make it feel like it's not just a continuation of Path of Exile 1 and just another expansion, because GG's just so good at releasing these expansions over and over, and you kind of grow accustomed to it. And I know that some other games have been doing that, where they release basically an additional campaign, and it hasn't quite hit the mark. So I think final decision on, well, possibly, I'm assuming the final decision on PoE 2 being a separate game is going to be very cool.
I think we saw much more different boss design than what we've seen in the past as well. It was like, there wasn't just like a bunch of auto attack spam like you get with current bosses. There were much more big abilities per boss battle that we saw there. And they felt tighter, like they were happening end to end. Like there was much less place for the exiles to maneuver. So those crowd control mechanics have a chance to play a real large role there, but also the dodge roll. I feel like that shapes the combat in some way.
I mean, most of the mechanics looked pretty lethal. Like you really do have to get out of the way. When we saw Neon die that first time, you could really notice and just the actual fear that he had for every attack on that second time after that. He'd, like there's just one pretty generic sweep, and you know you could be a little bit away from it. I saw him run right to the end of the back just to make sure he's not getting hit. And almost every single attack that did hit him, if it combos a little bit, he's going to die. And it made for some tense moments.
They really did him dirty. No unwavering stance. He kept getting stunned over and over. I'm like, whoa, they have no mercy for this guy.
They rehearsed that segment like a few dozen times as well. You can tell the death wasn't planned. I'm glad we got to see the death.
They actually mentioned that they did about 20 of those runs, and he died on maybe the last of those runs, and then went, oh no, is it going to happen again? So then turns out twice in a row, basically.
Yeah.
So could not have gone worse, but that's what you want to see.
Yeah, it started to get in his own head, I think, and was getting a little bit caught out by some of those abilities there. But yeah, that looked pretty brutal, but also quite satisfying. Like what we said, you know, probably you'll be a little faster in terms of actual gameplay with the players once your skills are better supported and things like that, but it's going to be like still fast and lethal gameplay. And I know that's something people will be concerned about. A lot of people see this like skill combos and a lot of these things, and like, I don't know if that's the Path of Exile 1, because a lot of people do like the really fast pace Path of Exile, but it still seems like a very fast-paced gameplay there.
But they do have the option now to go back to PoE. If they really just love everything that PoE 1 had to offer, it's still there.
Yeah.
Nobody can go and say, hey, but it used to be this in the old days. Well, it's right there. You can just go and play it. And a lot of people want that as well. I mean, you see World of Warcraft expanding and expanding over years, but then there's a core style of play that they would really love, and that's why we have, you know, all the the classic games now coming out as well. And that's essentially what, I mean, I think that's pretty clever of GGG that they're coming out and just giving us the classic experience straight away.
Yeah, we don't have to demand in 10 years' time, like, we want classic. They're like,
we're
you
spoiled.
think you do, but you don't.
That's it, we're bringing desync back.
I'm glad we're not going back to that classic.
A little too classic.
It's like classic, but continuing to evolve. My mind's still blown about that whole announcement. But you know what, a lot of people also, like, I heard people like in the crowd being like, tell us why you told us this.
Nie wolno wymawiać pewnie w pracy.
The gold was
so they didn't actually touch on it.
Spirit, they did.
It was like literally the first thing that comes up because I kill the first monkey and it drops some gold or something.
And the whole crowd goes, ooh.
They're like, what?
Well, that might be a spoiler for people at home, but on the cards that we got at ExileCon, the currency orbs, they look different.
Oh, really?
Very different.
You see currency orbs?
Oh, hell yeah. I have like 2 transmutes.
Are they not just more detailed? They actually look...
No. They're like...
They look very, very different.
The transmute looks like an Exalted Orb almost.
Yeah,
like
I mean, story-wise, I can kind of justify this idea because we had... PoE 1 was very much like you were in a barter economy because everyone was just in survival mode on Rayclass, right? They're all exiles. They're all just like bartering useful items with each other. That's why the economy was built around that concept. So story-wise, like now, it seems like they're trying to rebuild. They're trying to make it, this character seems to be, saw some hints of, seems to be making some sort of society, something like that. So that maybe an actual currency system and actual merchants and things like that.
They gave us so little with that. It was really just like a 20-second snippet, and they just switched away.
Yeah, so...
Well, they did softcast the gold thing with the
Ruthlessly,
and I guess it was received well enough, because I think that was probably one of my least complaints of that thing. Like, with gold, yep, that was actually a pretty cool system. Where you can go back into town and purchase just a few basic items. So it wasn't like replacing currency altogether, but it was just an addition that gave you some options for vendors and stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting, because like, obviously when Path of Exile 1 was first kind of showcased, they came out saying that, you know, we think gold's not a very, very good system, here's how we want to do it better. So it'll be interesting to hear soon, maybe when they talk about it, hopefully, why they want to move to the system and how it's going to play in Path of Exile and how they're going to like address some of those things maybe people don't like about gold, keeping gold useful, that sort of thing.
I think that's for sure happening. It's so bizarre that they didn't talk about that. Maybe it's one of those things where Chris is like, he missed a slide. I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, there was a lot to talk about, so you could easily skip a few things.
There was a few moments where we were like enjoying the gameplay and we're just like, come on, tell us the things. Give me some off-the-cuff commentary. Come on. We got a few little moments of that. And speaking of that, there was the new mana reservation system. Instead of reserving our mana now, you have a completely separate resource. Spirit, was it?
Yeah.
You build up through getting items, quest rewards, build it up, and it sounds like it'll be improvable through itemization of the passive tree and things like that.
Yeah,
I'm very excited about that.
Plus 10 maximum spirit from a boss kill.
Yeah.
More reservation right there.
Happen, yeah.
But like, as a big fan of the Archmage and mana and all that, are you pretty excited about like being able to use your mana while at the same time being able to have the power of the auras and shit?
Yeah, but they're probably gonna nerf it. Nerf everything.
Doesn't matter. You can now still have determination on the side.
True. That's getting nerfed too.
That's well.
Determination's not gonna last.
If Crip has his way with the developers, then determination's gone. He's not a fan.
Maybe we'll find out in like 10 minutes or so when he interviews Jonathan. The way that they said it on stage is like, people are always out of mana. I'm like, yeah. Because that's one of my thing. Definitely, like, the feeling of being out of mana and not being able to cast your skills is...
It's not just being out of mana. It's like we're ignoring it as a resource system, essentially.
You're not using it at all.
Yeah, so like solving it is one thing, and that's part of the game, right?
Yeah.
You have a bunch of problems, you try and solve them, and it feels good to finally solve them. Whereas with mana, largely we're ignoring it. We're just like, you know, you reserve as much and then just make sure it's not a thing for you. With this, perhaps it'll, you know, open up a lot more possibilities.
That's parts of what we saw with the Sorcerer's gameplay. The mana seemed like a more significant thing, and it also seems like they're taking, well, they explained it, but they were taking essentially what were archetypes, and they seem to really like putting them on support gems and whatnot. Like, for instance, when we had Forbidden Rite, which takes a portion of your HP and then does a lot of damage. That was really popular for a little bit with totems until it got nerfed. And they seem to have added that on a support gem. So I think that's the right way to go, honestly. It opens up a lot of opportunity, and whenever it does need a buff or a nerf, they can address it as a whole, and that might make it so that the patch notes are even more spicy than they have been up to now.
Excellent stuff. Yeah, we definitely saw like more skills that were like really expensive mana costs, like the meteors, cheaper mana costs, and then free, like the ones granted by items. So that means, that definitely shows I think there's going to be a lot more interaction with mana as a resource, and I think if they get that right, it's going to feel really good. Mana's hard though, like a lot of games I think struggle to get it right. They've had a lot of experience now. I'm very excited to see what they try with the new system.
U mnie jest trzecia już.
There's also many things today.
Jestem mniej więcej na wakacjach 4 dnia.
We knew that there'd be some ascendancies and some character models and stuff. And it's I'm sure almost no one would have thought new classes, because when we first saw Path of Exile 2, it's a very locked-in, distinct platform of our usual classes, and then one of them drops down and you get to play. You're like, okay, that's what it
mu,
is.
że
They can't
possibly... że 15 sezon Diablo 4 i tak rozjebie PoE 2, że nie ma się z czym jadać.
Ja pierdolę.
Że to jest niszowa gierka. Dajcie mu znać, żeby był w pełni świadomy tego, jak to jest. Miłej nocy, czat. Nie, może nie być przez kilka następnych dni, ponieważ jestem... Jezu, co on ogląda? Znowu jakieś anime, kurwa, ogląda. Nie przez następnych kilka dni będzie o wiele mniej na streamkach, ale pamiętajcie, żeby subskrybować kanał na YouTubie. No nie, tam codziennie będą wrzuty. Trzymajcie się, miłej nocy wam życzę i co, czaternia? Do zobaczenia, tak? A jak chcecie posłuchać jeszcze mojego pięknego głosu, to wykrzyknik archiwum klikacie i tyle. Także essa. Łokieto, kurwa, buła łokieć, pamiętajcie, że nie ma na was kozaka. I pamiętajcie, że 20 sezon D4 rozjebie. Elo.